In the year 2024, the Tokyo skyline is dominated by the Tetsuzu Group's first main building. A voice from the Blue Fox Exploration Division announces that the briefing is now over. Yamada Ichiro, the division chief, smiles predatorily and tells the recruits it's time to go. A young man, Ryuji, is told he must pass through a gate to another world and fight. A diverse group of new recruits is informed they will be invading a world called Oyona. Inside a futuristic lobby, a massive gate looms, the entrance to the other world, Oyona. A cheerful Frieder, Ikeda Hironori, excitedly assumes this is a secret test for a new game. Yakuza members Unishi Kuji and Sakata Ken resolve to confirm the reward details with Yamada. Yamada simply reminds them that they have, of course, already signed the contract. He flashes a wicked grin while announcing the incredible daily wage of 1 million yen. Their mission: defeat monsters in Oyona, collect Neomage, and return with crafted items. Unishi warns his underling not to slow him down, and Sakata obediently agrees. A hostess, Hanamori Karen, dreams of the 200 million yen she'll get for her success. A bandman, Kimura Takashi, believes the 200 million is the key to continuing his music. A former salaryman, Babajima Hideo, sees the money as his only salvation from debt. Hanabuki Ryuji nervously tells his friend Rei that the Yakuza members look dangerous. His friend Utayoshi Rei coolly tells him not to be scared, as they aren't so innocent either. Ryuji affirms their goal: to acquire 400 million yen between the two of them and return. In a flashback, Rei notes the dark, troubled expression on Ryuji's face. Rei playfully teases Ryuji about failing a test, boasting of his own academic and athletic prowess. Ryuji's pained eyes reveal a deep, unspoken turmoil. Seeing his friend's expression, Rei realizes the situation is far more serious than he thought. He confronts Ryuji, asking if he is truly quitting the baseball team, which Ryuji confirms. Rei pleads with him, reminding him of their promise to form a golden battery and go to Koshien. Ryuji remains silent, his head bowed under the weight of his problems. He finally confesses that his mother collapsed and was hospitalized. Rei is stunned into silence by the shocking and terrible news. Ryuji explains that his father left, forcing his mother to overwork herself, something he failed to notice. He clenches his fist, adding that he also has a younger sister he must now support. With a strained, desperate grin, he declares that he has no choice but to work. Rei listens intently, his expression a mixture of shock and deep concern for his friend. Back in the present, Ryuji's resolve is set. He will get the money and come home. Rei looks up at the Oyona gate, voicing his suspicion that this game is strange. He recalls a chilling clause in the contract. The company is not liable for any loss of life. The risk of death is acknowledged as a mere precaution for a game still in development. Yamada claps his hands cheerfully, telling the prepared recruits that it is time to go. Unishi, the Yakuza leader, cracks his knuckles, ready to begin. Karen blows a bubble of gum, her face a mask of cool indifference. Kimura bites his lip, sweat beading on his forehead as his anxiety peaks. Ryuji and Rei share a look of grim determination and agree that it's time to go. The disparate group of recruits walks up the stairs and into the shimmering data of the gate. They emerge into a primeval forest, their street clothes replaced by strange black bodysuits. Ryuji and Rei take in their impossible surroundings, confirming they are in a forest. Karen and Kimura express their shock, unable to believe they are inside a game. Ikeda praises the revolutionary VR, while Babajima worries about the people around him. Unishi inspects his new pistol, confirming with his subordinate that this is for killing monsters. He examines the weapon with a cruel smile, an idea forming in his mind. He turns and takes aim at the unsuspecting and terrified salaryman, Babajima Hideo. Babajima looks back, his face filled with pure, uncomprehending confusion. Unishi fires the weapon, a brilliant flash of energy erupting from its barrel. Ryuji, Rei, and Karen watch in stunned horror as the unthinkable unfolds. Babajima's upper body is instantly vaporized in a gruesome explosion of blood and viscera. As Ikeda screams, Ryuji furiously demands to know what Unishi has just done. Unishi looks back over his shoulder, coldly dismissing the murder as a simple test shot. He scoffs at their overreaction, reminding them that death in a game isn't real. Rei stares at the carnage, questioning if this is truly a game, given how real it feels. He looks at the mangled remains on the ground, realizing that failure here is absolute. Ryuji furiously argues that players shouldn't be killing each other and must cooperate. Unishi mockingly agrees, pointing his gun at Ryuji and offering him cooperation. Ryuji stares down the barrel of the gun, his expression hardening with resolve. His eyes narrow as a desperate plan forms in a split second. He shoots a quick, knowing glance toward his trusted friend, Rei. Ray returns the glance with a subtle, predatory smile of his own. Ryuji smirks, defiantly telling the Yakuza that he'll pass on the offer. He lunges forward, his fist connecting squarely with Unishi's jaw in a solid punch. Unishi grunts in pain, his head snapping back from the force of the unexpected blow. His subordinate, Sakata, screams in alarm, demanding to know what Ryuji is doing. Ryuji turns, yelling for Ray to make a run for it. Ray immediately agrees, and the two of them bolt into the woods. The rest of the group is frozen in shock by the sudden eruption of violence. Karen decides instantly that she will not stay with the murderous Yakuza. Kimura quickly agrees, choosing to follow the two boys who are fighting back. As the four fugitives disappear into the trees, Unishi screams for them to wait. Sakata rushes to his boss's side, asking if he is okay. Unishi curses the brats, swearing he will kill them for this. Ikeda, the portly freeder, whimpers in terror, having been left behind. He looks up to see Sakata pressing a pistol to the side of his head. The two Yakuza sneer down at him, calling him a pig and telling him to walk. Ikeda's face is a mask of pure, drooling terror as he realizes his fate. High above the forest, strange moss-covered islands float in the sky. Deep in the woods, the four fugitives stop, hoping they have finally put enough distance between them. Karen expresses her amazement at their courage, asking if they weren't afraid of the Yakuza. Ryuji admits his fear but says staying was worse. Ray agrees they will be fine. Ray compliments Kimura's strength, mentioning his own past as a catcher with Ryuji as his pitcher. Ryuji's attention is suddenly captured by something on the path ahead. In a small clearing, a strange, bipedal duck-like creature sits quietly. Up close, Ryuji can only stare at the bandana-wearing creature, wondering what it is. He identifies it as a duck, questioning if this cute, fantastical thing is a monster. The creature's eyes snap open, and it lets out a sharp, piercing cry. It launches itself forward with impossible speed, a blur of motion aimed directly at Kimura. The creature slams into the bandman's midsection with the force of a cannonball. Kimura lets out a pained grunt, blood spraying from his mouth upon impact. Ryuji screams in alarm, realizing the immense danger this small creature poses. Ray instantly takes charge, yelling for the others to shoot it down. Ryuji, Ray, and Karen open fire, unleashing a volley of energy blasts. The duck-like monster moves with supernatural agility, weaving between the shots. It moves too fast for them to track, their attacks completely missing their mark. Ryuji grits his teeth in frustration as his shot goes wide. The creature, ignoring them, smashes headfirst into a massive, gnarled tree. The entire trunk of the tree explodes outward from the sheer force of the impact. With a look of sheer terror, Ray shouts that the massive tree has been snapped in two. Kimura, the bandman, clutches his chest, blood dripping from his mouth after the devastating blow. "Wah!" Kakeru screams, unleashing a desperate shot from his pistol at the rampaging creature. A volley of energy blasts streaks through the air, sound effects crackling around them. Kakeru yells that the creature is impossibly tough for something that can send a man flying. The duck-like monster, its eyes peacefully closed, effortlessly weaves between the energy blasts. Ray screams for them to stay away, warning that getting hit by the creature would be disastrous. The four survivors scatter, running and firing wildly at the impossibly fast monster. The creature suddenly digs its feet into the ground, skidding to an abrupt halt. Its body slumps forward, its eyes closed as if it has simply fallen asleep mid-attack. A brilliant light begins to emanate from its still form, its body starting to dematerialize. Ray watches the bizarre phenomenon with a look of stunned surprise on his face. The creature glows brighter, its form dissolving into a swirling, ethereal light. It dematerializes completely, becoming a cloud of countless glowing particles. Karen asks if they defeated it, wondering if the light means it's self-destructed. The cloud of light drifts through the air, the particles swirling around the survivors. The glowing motes begin to coalesce, drawn towards the bodies of the fighters. Kakeru and Karen watch in amazement as the light is absorbed directly into their chests. Ray theorizes that this must be the Neumage energy Yamada had spoken of. He thoughtfully examines the holographic screen that has appeared from his wrist device. The screen confirms his theory, showing his Neumage count has risen to 2,144 grams. Kakeru checks his own device, seeing he has 2,152 grams, a nearly equal share. Karen rushes to Kimura's side, crying out that he is in very bad shape. Kimura coughs up a sickening spray of blood, his body racked with pain. Ray and Kakeru frantically search their devices, looking for a way to buy a recovery item. Karen, her face a mask of panic, joins the desperate search on her own device. A close-up on Karen's eyes shows her fear and determination to save her teammate. Kimura groans in agony, questioning if this is really a game with such realistic pain. Rei's device displays the Oyunamall, a virtual shopping interface for their new world. He observes that it's just like an online store, with everything from weapons to food available. The best seller is the Return Core, a 300-gram item that allows them to go home. Rei calculates that returning also costs an amount of nimage equal to their body weight. He excitedly tells Kakeru he's found a recovery item and asks which one they should buy. A sudden rustling sound from the woods freezes them, their attention snapping to the noise. The darkness of the forest seems to press in as a new presence makes itself known. Kakeru thinks the Yakuza have found them, but Rei cautions him to wait and see. Rei's expression is tense and sweaty as he watches the figure emerge from the trees. It is Unishi, the Yakuza enforcer, his face bruised and his lip bleeding from their earlier fight. A colossal, tattooed, ape-like monster with a feathered headdress suddenly looms over them all. Kakeru and Rei can only stare up in stunned silence at the new, overwhelming threat. Karen screams in absolute terror, convinced that they are all about to be killed. The beast, a muscle duck, opens its massive, toothy maw and lets out a deafening roar. The force of its cry seems to shake the very air, a testament to its raw power. Rei realizes with dawning horror that this must be the adult form of the creature they just killed. The injured Kimura is seen being lifted into the air, caught in the monster's powerful grasp. Karen screams for the monster to stop as she is also snatched up by the creature. The monster's massive hand closes around both Kimura and Karen, crushing them in an instant. Karen's face is splattered with blood as she witnesses the horrific death of her teammate. Rei thinks that everyone must be feeling the true, visceral terror of death in this moment. The muscle duck's massive arm swings down in a devastating arc towards the survivors. Kakeru watches the attack descend, his face a mask of sweaty, desperate fear. Karen is swatted aside, her body sent flying through the air by the immense force. Kakeru screams Rei's name, urging his friend to run from the relentless monster. Rei stands his ground, his eyes wide, frozen by the sheer scale of the threat before him. The monster looms over him, its size utterly overwhelming as it prepares to strike. Its arm swings down with incredible speed, aimed directly at the helpless Rei. Rei is struck, the brutal impact sending him flying backward through the forest. He crashes through the dense foliage, his body a blur of uncontrolled motion. He cries out in pure agony as his body is slammed hard against a tree. Kakeru screams his friend's name, his face contorted with fear and righteous anger. The monster's maw gapes open as it prepares to stomp on the downed Kakeru. Kakeru dives out of the way just as the monster's massive foot crashes down. His eyes are wide with terror and adrenaline as he narrowly escapes being crushed. He yells that their only hope is to get deeper into the forest and use the trees for cover. He sprints through the dense alien woods, putting distance between himself and the beast. He finds Rei slumped against a tree and immediately helps him to his feet. Kakeru pants for breath, the strain of the desperate chase etched on his face. The muscle duck smashes through the trees, its pursuit savage and relentless. Kakeru screams at Rei, telling him to leave him behind and save himself from the monster. He furiously reminds Rei that thinking up a strategy to defeat this thing is his job. Rei grits his teeth, admitting that with just the two of them, their situation is impossible. He accesses the Oyunamall on his wrist device, desperately searching for a solution. He knows their only hope is to find an effective weapon in the virtual marketplace. He finds an item called the Muscle Duck Annihilation Switch, but the price is an insane 500 kilograms. Rei cries out in frustration, knowing they can't possibly afford such an expensive item. He checks his balance, confirming he only has a meager 2,144 grams to work with. His eyes widen as he scrolls further, a new crucial piece of information catching his eye. He sees that their starting first gun is worth a staggering 2,000 grams. He realizes that buying a significantly stronger weapon is likely impossible with their current funds. He grits his teeth in frustration, his mind racing to find another way out of this. He knows they sell everything, and he must think of something they can afford to buy. A wide shot shows the alien sky above the dense primeval forest canopy. Kakeru says he's about to suggest something reckless, and Rei demands to hear it. Kakeru holds up a small, round object wrapped in tape, asking what to do with it. Rei's mind flashes to the item description. The muscle duck always roars when it attacks. A desperate, brilliant plan forms, and he tells Kakeru to throw it into the monster's mouth. Kakeru's eyes widen in surprise at the insane, high-stakes command from his friend. The hulking muscle duck looms over the injured Rei, with Kakeru standing ready to act. The monster's beak-like mouth gapes open as it prepares to let out another fearsome roar. Rei looks on, his expression a mixture of pain, desperation, and a flicker of hope. Kakaru, cradling the makeshift bomb, tells Rei to leave it to him, vowing to win. He takes a deep breath, his face a mask of steely resolve in the face of death. He promises to defeat the monster and then immediately heal Rei's injured leg. Rei knows the muscle duck is impossibly fast, making the throw a reckless, desperate gamble. But he believes Kakaru can do it, thinking of him as the strongest pitcher he has ever known. A montage of memories shows their shared history and deep bond on the baseball field. Rei remembers his teammates praising Kakaru's monstrous control, predicting he'd go pro. Kakaru's voice echoes in his mind, saying his successful hits that day were just luck. Rei recalls his solemn promise to Kakaru. Whenever they lost, it was always his own fault. Kakaru, drawing on that unwavering trust, declares that he has never once missed a pitch. The monstrous muscle duck lets out a furious, deafening roar. Ryuji's face is grim, thinking how he always relies on Rei for strategy. He faces the beast, his faith in Rei's perfect judgment unwavering. He settles into a pitcher's stance, recalling his fundamentals: pitch, power, and form. He blames past failures on his own shortcomings, his own lack of skill. Overwhelmed with emotion, he desperately wants to live up to Rei's expectations. He screams his deepest desire. He just wants to play baseball with Rei. The glowing capsule flies true, a perfect line aimed at the monster's throat. The makeshift bomb disappears into the dark, gaping abyss of the beast's mouth. From the trees, the Yakuza cicada watches the impossible throw in utter disbelief. The colossal monster stumbles, its charge halted by the projectile. Ryuji watches with bated breath, waiting for their desperate plan to work. The beast begins to choke violently, its massive body convulsing. Rei cries out in relief, confirming the direct hit. The bomb's simple components are shown: a capsule, tape, bleach, and cleaner. Rei explains their plan. Mixing the chemicals creates poisonous gas. He wonders if real-world chemistry will even apply in this bizarre world. Ryuji stares as the monster is racked with agony from within. The beast's eyes roll back as it chokes on the chemical fumes. The internal reaction tears the creature apart from the inside. The two friends share a look of shocked realization. Their plan worked. A diagram shows a simple formula for creating deadly chlorine gas. Rei explains the horrific effects of the gas, leading to certain death. When generated internally, the effects are even more devastating. The beast crashes to the ground, its death now an absolute certainty. The colossal creature lies still, dark fluid leaking from its mouth. Ryuji can only stare, the reality of their victory slowly sinking in. The massive corpse begins to glow, dissolving into pure energy. A look of grim satisfaction settles over Ryuji's dirt-streaked face. The monster's head vanishes in a brilliant flash of light. Countless glowing particles of neomage fill the air. A swirling vortex of pure energy, a massive cloud of neomage, forms. Ryuji screams in triumph, celebrating their victory and the massive reward. But his celebration is cut short as he sees Rei collapse. Rei's body slumps lifelessly onto the cracked forest floor. He rushes to his friend, telling him they won and are now safe. Rei looks up at him, his face deathly pale, his life fading. Panicked, Ryuji tries to use the neomage to create a healing item. Rei weakly grabs his arm, stopping him from wasting the energy. He tells Ryuji it's too late for him, urging him to escape. Ryuji screams at him, refusing to accept his friend's words. Rei smiles sadly, saying he's just getting a game over. Ryuji desperately tries to absorb the neomage faster to buy an item. With his final breath, Rei promises to wait for him in reality. His hand falls away, life leaving his body completely. Ryuji's eye is wide with the dawning horror of his friend's death. He shakes his friend's lifeless body, screaming his name into the forest. He remembers Rei excitedly showing him the ad for the high-paying job. He recalls his initial fear that it was a dangerous scam. Rei had reassured him, saying they could just run away if it was dangerous. Ryuji was shocked that his friend would join him in such a risk. Rei explained how they could earn enough money to solve his family's problems. Ryuji couldn't believe Rei would give up his own earnings for him. Rei had simply replied that it was the obvious thing to do. He couldn't understand why Rei would sacrifice so much for him. Rei had roared that his true goal was to go to Koshien with him. He begged Ryuji to keep playing baseball with him. The memory of that passionate plea hangs in the air. A single mournful sound escapes Ryuji's lips. The world shifts back to the sterile lobby and the shimmering Oyona gate. The blonde Yakuza, Sakata, emerges from the portal, just as bewildered. A vortex of light deposits Ryuji back into the real world. He stumbles forward, disoriented by the sudden transition. Yamada Ichiro emerges from the shadows, congratulating him with a wide grin. Ryuji looks at him, his face a mask of cold fury. Yamada applauds his successful return with theatrical glee. Ryuji grabs him, frantically demanding to know where Rei is. He asks if the others who died have also returned safely. Yamada's smile fades into a look of cold condescension. He calmly states the horrifying truth. Dead people don't come back. Ryuji can only stare, the words failing to register. He cannot comprehend the finality of Yamada's statement. Yamada mocks his ignorance, explaining basic facts of life and death. Yamada asks if he really needs to explain such things to him. Filled with rage, Ryuji grabs him again, insisting it was just a game. Yamada agrees it was like a game, which is why he called it another world. He points out the cruel technicality. He never actually used the word game. Ryuji releases him, whispering that he doesn't believe it. Yamada calmly tells him he is free to do as he pleases. He offers a briefcase presenting the 2 million yen reward. Ryuji stares at the money, the tangible proof of his horrific ordeal. Yamada tells him to come back once he accepts the truth. He leaves with a final cryptic promise to tell him something good. The crystalline Tetsuzu Tower looms over the city like a monument. Ryuji walks out of the building, a ghost in the real world. His face is shadowed, his eyes hollow and filled with despair. He drifts through the bustling city, completely detached from the world around him. He pulls out his phone, his hand trembling slightly. His thumb hovers over the contact for his best friend Rei. He makes the call, telling himself it must all be a sick joke. An automated message informs him that the number is unreachable. The silence on the other end is a cold, hard confirmation. In desperation, he scrolls through his contacts to call Rei's home. Rei's mother answers, telling him that her son hasn't come home yet. His hand goes limp, the phone slipping from his grasp. The bright, empty sky reflects the hollowness inside him. The next day, he returns to the familiar facade of his school. His classmates gossip about Rei's disappearance, completely unaware of the truth. A friend turns to him, hoping he has some answers. He asks Ryuji if he knows anything, but Ryuji can only stare back, haunted. The school day ends, but a heavy silence follows Kakeru. He walks alone through the city, a ghost in the bustling crowd. His expression is somber, lost in the memories of a world away. He stops, his gaze drawn upward to a massive public news screen. A breaking news report flashes. 2 people from the mission are now missing. His face contorts in shock as the last of his denial shatters. His hand trembles, reaching for a cold metal railing to steady himself. He doubles over in anguish, realizing it was all real and Rei is truly gone. His hand clenches the railing, knuckles white with grief and despair. Tears stream down his face as he chokes out that it was all his fault. Yamada's chilling promise to tell him something good echoes in his mind. He covers his face, completely overwhelmed by his crushing sorrow. He pushes himself up, a new desperate resolve hardening his features. The crystalline Tetsuzu Tower looms, a monument to his only hope. High in his office, Yamada senses his arrival, remarking that he has come. Kakeru stands before him, his eyes filled with a grim determination. He confirms Yamada was right and demands to know the secret he was promised. Yamada chuckles softly, preparing to dangle the ultimate prize before him. He reveals that deep within Oyona, an item exists that can revive the dead. Kakeru stares, his mind reeling from the impossible, unbelievable words. Hope, fierce and blinding, ignites in his eyes. Rei can be brought back. Yamada explains their true goal, to find a new energy using players like him. He asks for Kakeru's cooperation, promising the reward will be worth it. Kakeru's grief is forged into a razor-sharp purpose. He snarls that if this is a lie, he will never forgive him. Yamada watches him, his expression unreadable behind his futuristic sunglasses. Kakeru takes a determined step forward, his decision now absolute. He stands before the Oyona gate, ready to return to hell for his friend. He recalls Rei's final fading smile, a promise to wait in the real world. The memory is a fresh wound. He screams for Rei to wait, that it's hopeless. He remembers frantically searching the Oyonamall for a way to save him. He desperately willed the Neomage to absorb faster, but it was too late. Rei's life dissolved into particles of light before his very eyes. His own voice echoes in his memory, pleading for his friend to wait. He was left kneeling in an empty clearing, reaching for a ghost. Kakeru jolts awake, his heart pounding, the nightmare clinging to him. He sits up on the top bunk of his small, cluttered bedroom. He gasps for air, the horror of the memory still feeling real. A soft voice calls out, asking if her big brother's okay. His younger sister Eri smiles from the doorway, breakfast ready. Still shaken, Kakeru manages a weak thanks, his voice hoarse. A simple, warm breakfast sits on the table. a world away from Moyona. As they eat, Eri says she'll visit their mom in the hospital later. She watches her brother, a deep and knowing concern in her eyes. She tells him he was having a nightmare again, that he looks tormented. He dismisses her worry, insisting it was just a dream and he is fine. Eri falls silent, but her worried expression remains. She lists his burdens, afraid that he is going to break under the strain. She offers to get a part-time job herself to help ease his load. He lies, saying he's earned enough money to cover their family's expenses. Eri's face floods with shock and relief as she asks if it's true. He reassures her, and she thanks him, saying he is amazing. Her relief gives way to a new concern. She asks if the job is dangerous. He lies again, claiming it's a simple game development job under an NDA. He looks down, telling her she has nothing to worry about. The quiet apartment building stands under a cloudy sky. He has returned to the city, his path leading back to the Tetsuzu Tower. In a high-tech control room, Yamada greets him, expecting his arrival. Kakeru stands before him, his casual clothes belying his hardened resolve. Yamada introduces Kakeru to a new shadowy group as an experienced player. One of the new recruits wonders what being an experienced player means. Yamada cheerfully explains Kakeru is the one who earned 2 million yen. Kakeru grabs him, demanding to know if these people are new sacrifices. With a grand gesture, Yamada confirms they are this round's challengers. Kakeru is horrified, realizing they are just bringing in more people to die. A fire of righteous anger burns in his eyes. The new recruits are a motley crew of misfits and outsiders. A trio of pro-gamers stands apart, their confidence bordering on arrogance. Yamada declares that Kakeru will now be the leader of the combat unit. Kakeru panics, refusing to take responsibility for anyone else's life. He pleads with Yamada not to send any more people into that hell. Yamada coldly informs him that they are going, with or without his consent. Kakeru is silenced, trapped by the impossible weight of the situation. Yamada presents a choice. Will they end up like Rei or like him? He leans in, suggesting Kakeru's leadership could change their fate. Defeated, Kakeru bows his head, accepting his new terrible role. He warns Yamada that he won't let his own death be a meaningless one. The corporate devil simply laughs, amused by his defiance. Kakeru turns to face the new recruits, his expression grim. He reluctantly introduces himself, saying he doesn't want to know them. One of the gamers smirks, entertained by his serious demeanor. He says he finds starting a new game without a guide to be exciting. Kakeru warns them they'll die, but the gamer says they are serious pros. The declaration catches Kakeru off guard. They are professionals? Their leader, Fukumura Tetsuru, introduces his team, Valhalla Knights. His teammate, Motoyama, adds that for them, games are serious business. The third member, Tsuda, agrees, saying they will play dirty to win. Fukumura challenges Yamada, stating they won't follow a novice's orders. Yamada calmly agrees, saying he will respect their decision. Kakeru watches them, a pit of dread forming in his stomach. Yamada turns to the other 4 recruits, asking them to choose a side. The feral boy, Katu Huma, decides the gamers seem more interesting. He hums a cheerful, carefree tune as he makes his choice. Huma happily joins the pro gamers, saying they seem less of a drag. Kakeru knows he can't promise safety to anyone who follows him. The remaining 3, the man, the sailor, and the small girl, look to him. The girl in the sailor uniform says she'll follow him, valuing his experience. She introduces herself as Adachi Kahana, addressing him as leader. The man, Maeda Gengaru, agrees, saying he'll be counting on the leader. The small girl, Minami Koharu, shyly agrees to be in the leader's care. Ryuji nervously accepts his leadership role, deeply worried about his 3 new teammates. He notices the man in sunglasses is blind, holding a faintly glowing white cane. Meanwhile, the overconfident pro gamers eagerly charge ahead, thrilled for the game to begin. Maeda observes their bravado, while Adachi finds them annoying and wants to keep her distance. Ryuji makes one last plea, warning them this is a deadly job, not a game. Adachi listens to his warning, her expression thoughtful as she considers the risks. Maeda, however, simply hums in thought, a calm, knowing smile on his lips. He compares their situation to jaywalking, a daily gamble with one's own life. Ryuji is completely baffled by the man's strange and seemingly reckless analogy. Maeda explains that even that simple act is a life-or-death risk against speeding cars. He looks back at Ryuji, seeking his agreement on the inherent danger of such choices. With a small smile, he concludes their current situation is exactly the same kind of risk. The comparison leaves Ryuji more confused than ever, unable to see the connection. Maeda laughs as Koharu deadpans that his bizarre example made no sense at all. Adachi cuts in, stating that people only take such risks when they have a purpose. The goal on the other side, she argues, makes any dangerous crossing necessary. Her eyes burn with intensity as she declares their one powerful motivation: they need money. Maeda is impressed, and Koharu admits her reasoning was far better than his. Ryuji finally understands. Their desperation means they are prepared for the deadly consequences. With their resolve united, he gives the final command to step through the gate. They emerge into a ruined, sunlit walkway, their clothes transformed into black bodysuits. The view reveals a sprawling, dilapidated city being slowly reclaimed by wild nature. Maeda is surprised, and Adachi confirms this is a completely different world from the forest. Koharu is shocked and embarrassed to find herself in the revealing, skin-tight suit. Maeda panics, realizing his essential white cane has vanished without a trace. He explains that without his cane, the world around him is a confusing blur. Adachi quickly theorizes the suit has granted him a new sense, a form of echolocation. He confirms her theory, amazed by her knowledge, as Koharu nicknames him Ear Uncle. The existence of such an impossible power confirms this world must be a virtual space. Koharu looks up at the crumbling structures, stating they are in an abandoned building. Ryuji confirms this ruined city is completely different from the forest of his first visit. The familiar, human-like architecture makes it difficult to believe this is another world. But with changing clothes and pop-up menus, Koharu concludes it is exactly like a game. Kakeru reveals their ticket home. The return core requires a steep neumage price. He confirms Adachi's fear. The cost of escape is alarmingly high. The weight of this news crushes Maeda, who leans on a pipe in distress. Kakeru recalls fighting a massive monster, the first of many horrors he faced. With a chilling grin, he reveals that last time, everyone but him was killed. His new teammates are frozen in stunned silence, the grim reality setting in. He warns them that death here is final, there is no returning home. Maeda breaks out in a cold sweat, struggling to accept the terrible truth. Adachi's expression hardens, her fear giving way to a grim, silent resolve. Kakeru outlines their new strategy. They will move with extreme caution. They agree to fight only the weak and flee from stronger threats. Their leader cautiously scouts the path ahead, searching for an easy target. He knows they must find weak prey to earn Niamage and survive. They advance through a long, dilapidated corridor, a ghost of a shopping mall. Their careful advance comes to an abrupt and silent halt. Kakeru stares ahead, his eyes wide with utter shock and disbelief. An impossible wall of vibrant sunflowers blocks their path through the ruins. Adachi lets out a choked sound, her mind struggling to process the sight. They question the bizarre sight, wondering why sunflowers grow from a concrete wall. Koharu recoils in disgust, finding the flowers' textured centers deeply unsettling. The bumpy texture of the flowers fills her with a strange, creeping dread. A deep sense of wrongness washes over Maeda, a primal, chilling premonition. The cheerful flowers seem to pulse with a silent, unnatural life. Kakeru's eyes narrow as he notices a subtle, rhythmic pulsation. Maeda suddenly screams for Koharu to get away from the flowers immediately. A flower turns, its center splitting into a grotesque, googly-eyed grin. The entire wall awakens, 100 monstrous faces smiling down at her. Adachi can only stammer in disbelief at the horrific transformation. Kakeru realizes with dawning horror that every single flower is a monster. The flower creatures launch themselves forward in a chattering, horrifying swarm. Their jagged, smiling mouths emit a cacophony of high-pitched, manic laughter. Maeda shoves Koharu to safety, yelling for her to get back. Adachi's fear gives way to a cold, sharp glint of deadly resolve. Adachi Kahana, the schoolgirl warrior, faces the chattering horde of monstrous flowers. Her dark blade becomes a blur of motion, a whisper of imminent death. The sunflowers giggle and chatter, their googly eyes fixed on their new prey. Her hand is steady on the hilt, the blade already stained with ichor. She carves through the swarm, a whirlwind of precise and deadly strikes. The monsters are bisected mid-air, their manic grins frozen in place. Maeda Gengaro joins the fight, his iron pipe crushing a flower's head. He swings again, smashing another of the bizarre, grotesque creatures. Standing tall, he surveys the battlefield, his makeshift weapon held ready for more. Minami Koharu watches the brutal display, her face a mask of worried awe. Adachi wonders if this is just a blind, desperate attack without any strategy. Ryuji can only stare, exclaiming how incredibly amazing her fighting skill is. Maeda pauses, leaning on his pipe, a bead of sweat on his brow. He questions the strange, hollow sensation he feels with every successful blow. He realizes with horror that he hasn't truly defeated a single one. His eyes widen in alarm as he senses the immediate, unseen danger. A monstrous sunflower lunges from the wall, its jagged mouth gaping wide. It bites down hard, its teeth clashing against Maida's pipe-protected shoulder. He cries out in pain as the immense pressure dents the solid iron. "Uncle!" Koharu screams, her voice filled with pure, unadulterated terror. Ryuji yells Gengaru's name, his face contorted with alarm and concern. The chattering monsters grin, their numbers and confidence growing with every second. Ryuji shoves Maida back, yelling at him to stop and get away. He warns his team to stay back, not to get close to the sunflowers. The endless sea of flowers surges forward, their laughter a maddening cacophony. Koharu kneels beside the injured Maida, desperately pleading for him not to die. Adachi looks to Ryuji, her composure gone, asking what they should possibly do. They are trapped, the grotesque garden of horrors closing in from all sides. Ryuji stares, overwhelmed, wondering how many of them there could possibly be. A single drop of sweat traces a path down his tense, terrified jaw. He remembers the words that sealed his fate. He is their leader, Ryuji. His eyes narrow, fear giving way to a desperate, hardened resolve. He screams that their deaths are his burden, ordering a full retreat now. Ryuji takes command, ordering Koharu to help Maida. He and Adachi will hold the rear against the horde. Ryuji screams at the top of his lungs, ordering his desperate team to run. Paralyzed by sheer terror, he wonders what they can possibly do against such numbers. In his panic, he thinks that Rei would have devised a brilliant plan instantly. A close-up reveals a single sunflower monster being blasted apart by an energy shot. Another flower, its googly eyes wide, seems to gasp as it is struck down. A hand fires one of the standard-issue pistols, its blast trailing sparkling energy particles. Elsewhere, the pro gamers find the so-called small fry monsters surprisingly durable. Fukumura complains their firepower is weak and suggests buying better weapons. Taking stock, the gamers confirm they each have around 4 to 5 kilograms of neomage. They debate what to buy, with Motoyama suggesting a cool Japanese sword. Huma, humming a tune, nonchalantly agrees to let him have the coveted weapon. As Motoyama unsheathes the katana, Huma teases, asking if he can even handle it. Amidst the ruins, Tsuda asks if anyone else can hear a strange song. Huma's humming stops as his sharp, animalistic senses detect a deep rumbling. The entire floor of the concourse begins to tremble and crack beneath a skylight. A colossal sunflower erupts from the ground, its thick stem twisting as it grows. The pro gamers are stunned into silence, awestruck by the monster's incredible size. The giant flower turns its shadowy, minimalist face towards the stunned gamers. Its massive head begins to convulse, letting out a deep, guttural groan. A chilling voice asks if they too have come to become sunflowers. Back in the corridor, the grotesque horde of sunflowers surges forward, giggling. Ryuji screams for his team to run, leading the desperate flight down the hallway. The chattering, smiling faces of the monsters fill the narrow path behind them. Ryuji feels the crushing weight of leadership, knowing he has to do something. Adachi looks on, her expression a mask of tension and deep concern. Koharu peeks from behind Maida, urging her injured uncle to do his best. Sweat beading on his brow, Maida forces out a strained affirmative. His hand, splattered with dark ichor, grips the metal pipe he used as a weapon. A new resolve hardens Ryuji's face as he observes the approaching horde. He notices a crucial weakness. The monsters are surprisingly slow-moving. Realizing he has an opportunity, he turns to face the enemy, raising his pistol. Gritting his teeth, he opens fire, determined to hold the line for his team. A brilliant beam of energy streaks down the corridor toward the floral monsters. The blast rips into the horde, obliterating several of the fragile creatures. Ryuji realizes they are weak, unlike the tough Ahiru monster from the forest. Adachi has a sudden realization, a single tear of stress tracing a path down her cheek. She moves to his side, raising her own pistol and declaring that she will fight too. Relieved to have backup, Ryuji breathes a quiet, heartfelt word of thanks. Maida, watching them fight, clenches his fist, frustrated by his own helplessness. Koharu looks back at him, her expression questioning his inaction. He laments that he can't just let the two young people fight while he runs. Koharu shouts at him, reminding him that he's injured and can't help. Maida insists that as an adult, he should be the one to make a sacrifice. Furious, Koharu tells him to stop being a self-pitying old man and escape with them. Humbled by her fierce loyalty, Maida can only offer a sheepish apology. Ryuji and Adachi continue their barrage, holding back the relentless floral tide. Their energy blasts tear through the sunflowers, their cartoonish eyes popping. Ryuji is amazed. A single shot is enough to take one down instantly. He confirms that these monsters are far weaker than the powerful Ahiru. But their numbers are endless, and the distance between them is rapidly closing. A sound effect emphasizes the horde's shuffling, inexorable advance down the hall. In the concourse, the pro gamers stand ready to face their colossal foe. Fukumura grins with predatory confidence, identifying the giant as a mid-boss. The giant flower's head groans and begins to thrash back and forth violently. It prepares to attack, its massive vines coiling like muscular pythons. Fukumura yells for his team to get ready as the monster lunges. With a synchronized shout, Fukumura and Suda leap into the air together. Their powerful double kick intercepts the monster's sweeping vine, creating a massive impact. Fukumura cheers, calling the attack an easy win due to its predictable windup. Motoyama roars as he dashes forward, swinging his new katana at the stunned vine. He curses in frustration as his blade gets stuck deep in the vine's thick flesh. His teammates mock him, asking how long he's been a gamer to make such a rookie mistake. Fukumura retorts that simply hacking and slashing is the most satisfying way to fight. Suda just laughs, unconvinced by his leader's brutish logic. His expression suddenly freezes as he senses a new, immediate danger. A sharp, horn-tipped vine whips through the air, aimed directly at him. He can only watch in disbelief, muttering for it to wait, to stop. The vine impales him through the chest as the monster's shadowy face grins. Fukumura screams his name in raw panic, asking if his friend is okay. The monster contemptuously flings Tsuda's body, smashing it against a concrete pillar. Fukumura can only let out a choked sound of utter disbelief and horror. Tsuda's mangled, bloody corpse is splayed against the shattered concrete. Motoyama stares, his mouth agape, as he processes his teammate's horrific death. A single tear falls from Fukumura's eye, his bravado completely shattered. The smaller flowers swarm Motoyama, consuming him in a grotesque floral burst. One of the sunflowers, spattered with blood, grins with manic glee. The two remaining gamers are frozen in absolute, paralyzing shock. The giant sunflower's sinister, smiling face looms over the gruesome scene. Its gaping maw opens, revealing a swirling mass of smaller, chattering flower monsters. A voice whispers from the darkness, expressing its desire to bloom quickly. Fukumura realizes with horror that his friends have become sunflowers. Keisuke is dead. The giant sunflower's head convulses as it prepares to spew more monsters. Fukumura's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated terror and despair. The monster unleashes a torrent of its smaller kin from its shadowy mouth. Fukumura, his mind snapping, curses the situation, unable to believe it's real. He tries to fight back, swinging his blade wildly against the overwhelming tide. He grits his teeth, sweat and tears streaming down his face in panic. He looks up, his eyes wide with a dawning, horrifying realization. His last teammate is being swarmed, his body already sprouting bulbous growths. The boy reaches out a hand, pleading for help as he is transformed. His body bursts apart, replaced by a grotesque statue of grinning sunflowers. Fukumura stares, his face spattered with the blood of his last friend. His eye reflects the pure horror of the scene, his spirit completely broken. The newly formed sunflower statue seems to hum a cheerful, mocking tune. The giant sunflower's shadowy face observes the carnage with silent satisfaction. A primal scream of pure terror tears from Fukumura's throat. He turns and flees, his footfalls heavy with despair and utter defeat. He runs blindly through the wreckage, screaming in pure, animalistic fear. The monster's voice taunts him, asking why he runs, inviting him to become a flower. Fukumura can only scream, his face a contorted mask of tears and agony. Ryuji's face is a mask of grim determination. This is no game. The pro gamers mock his warning, calling him a lame leader. Fukumura screams in terror, realizing his arrogant mistake was fatal. He runs for his life through the concourse, crying out for help. With a deafening crash, the ceiling above him shatters and collapses. The giant sunflower looms over him as he lets out a terrified shriek. A thick, powerful vine whips through the air with incredible speed. Fukumura grits his teeth, bracing for the inevitable, brutal impact. The vine strikes, sending his body tumbling violently across the floor. The monster's sinister face hovers over him, whispering its victory. In his final moments, the pro gamer sobs and cries for his mother. A grotesque seed pod bursts from his back, consuming his body. The colossal sunflower lets out a soft, chilling laugh of triumph. One of the transformed gamers sprouts from the ground as a new monster. It is instantly sliced apart by a flash of unseen steel. A brilliant beam of light streaks across the dark battlefield. The light is a bullet, striking another sunflower monster dead center. The giant sunflower looks on, surprised by this new challenger. From a safe distance, Katuhuma lets out an amused laugh. He stands over the fallen gamer, mocking his pathetic, tearful end. He remarks that watching the pro gamer's demise was quite interesting. The giant sunflower's shadowy, smiling face fills the entire frame. Huma crouches low, asking if he will be its next opponent. The monster's face seems to pose a silent question in return. Ryuji's team finds a door, cautiously preparing to enter. They find a trashed office, a temporary precarious safe haven. Adachi observes that they were gently herded into this very trap. Ryuji's eyes are wide, the gravity of their situation sinking in. They defeated some, Adachi reports, but over 100 still remain. Adachi asks their leader for a plan, but Ryuji has no answer. Koharu nervously suggests that if they hadn't stopped, they'd be seen. Ryuji looks down, her innocent words sparking a desperate idea. Adachi considers the point, realizing there might be truth to it. Maeda slumps to the floor, clutching the bleeding wound in his side. He offers to sacrifice himself, to act as a decoy for the team. Koharu and Adachi rush to his side, refusing to let him die. Ryuji steps forward, declaring that he will help the injured man. Adachi looks at him, surprised by his decisive leadership. He explains that he researched recovery items before they even started. He presents the Kisnol Alpha, a healing spray costing 500 neomage. He kneels beside Maeda, handing him the life-saving canister. Maeda takes the spray, his expression a mixture of hope and pain. He applies it to his wound, which glows with a brilliant light. Adachi watches the scene unfold, her face etched with concern. Koharu looks on, her expression a mask of shock and worry. Maeda stares at his hand as glowing particles seal his wound. He looks at his side, amazed that the bleeding has stopped. Ryuji explains it takes time, unlike more expensive instant cures. A timer appears, counting down 1 hour until he is fully healed. Overjoyed, Maeda thanks him profusely as the team gathers around. Adachi notes his adrenaline is fading and the pain is returning. Koharu looks on sympathetically, noting how much it must hurt. Adachi confirms that while he's saved, he can't fight for an hour. Ryuji calculates their remaining nimage, knowing they must survive. The team members report their nimage totals to each other. Ryuji ponders their next move, asking his team what to do. Koharu reveals a terrifying fact. Each monster takes 5 shots. Ryuji is shocked, asking if she was really counting during the chaos. Adachi quietly confirms that Koharu's assessment is indeed correct. He looks at the quiet girl, amazed by her incredible focus. Adachi grimly realizes their firepower is no match for the horde. She puts a finger to her chin, her mind racing for a solution. Ryuji explains his desperate gambit from before, a chemical bomb. Adachi realizes with horror that Ryuji is the sole survivor. Maeda dismisses the plan. The monsters are too numerous and small. He points out the difficulty of gassing such a large open space. Ryuji agrees, wondering what other options they could possibly have. Adachi asks if real-world chemical reactions work here in Oyona. A slow, confident smile spreads across her face as a plan forms. If chemistry applies, she declares, there are countless ways to win. Ryuji and Koharu are stunned by her sudden, brilliant confidence. She tells the team to leave it to her. She will devise a plan. She begins formulating a strategy using their available neomage. A wicked grin appears as she mulls over various deadly options. The rest of the team waits, putting their trust in her intellect. Koharu timidly approaches Ryuji, her hands clasped nervously. She tells him that she also has a single request to make. The horde of sunflower monsters surges forward, chattering madly. One of them bursts through a door, leading the chaotic charge. A powerful, unseen force slices through the lead monster. The monster is torn apart, revealing another grinning face behind it. A close-up reveals the creature's grotesque, wide-eyed smile. At the far end of the room, the team stands ready for battle. Adachi announces their arrival, and Ryuji orders her to fire. The sunflowers swarm forward, their cackles filling the air. Koharu stands against the wall, preparing to act on her request. Her finger presses the play button on a small music player. She puts on a pair of large headphones, her eyes closed in focus. Her eyes snap open as she lets out a wild, powerful scream. "Let's rock!" she shouts, dual-wielding 2 newly purchased pistols. The mall receipt shows her purchases, headphones, player, and music. She unleashes a storm of energy from her pistols, screaming, "Fire!" The energy blasts rip through the front line of the monster horde. She shouts random English phrases, lost in her combat trance. A single, precise shot strikes a sunflower directly in the eye. The monster explodes in a cloud of petals and dark ichor. Adachi's sharp eyes track Koharu's every devastating move. The remaining sunflower monsters look on, their smiles frozen. Koharu continues her dance of destruction, mowing down the enemy. Ryuji is amazed by her power, as Adachi explains her music-fueled ability. In a ruined building, Koharu dual-wields pistols, unleashing a storm of energy. Adachi shouts to Ryuji, confirming that all the sunflower monsters are inside. Understanding the signal, Ryuji orders his team to retreat to the veranda. Adachi leaps gracefully onto a ledge, leading the way to their vantage point. The grotesque sunflower horde surges forward, chattering that they will not let them escape. Ryuji turns to Koharu, entrusting her with a crucial part of their plan. From the balcony, Adachi takes careful aim at the packages on the ceiling pipes. Her precise shots tear open the cloth-wrapped bundles hanging above the horde. A fine white powder rains down, blanketing the monsters in a thick cloud. The entire room is now filled with the dense, white, highly combustible dust. Ryuji stands ready, a single matchstick held between his determined fingers. He strikes the match head against the Oyana-branded box, creating a spark. His face a mask of intensity, he screams for everyone to get down. With a practiced flick, he sends the tiny flickering flame into the room. A massive fireball erupts, engulfing the entire sunflower horde in an instant. Ryuji shields his face from the blinding light and concussive force of the blast. Adachi brings a finger to her lips, whispering the name of her brilliant plan. She happily explains the simple science behind the devastating dust explosion. Ryuji asks if something as simple as wheat flour could really be that powerful. A menu shows their purchases, matches, tape, and 10 kilograms of wheat flour. Ryuji peers over the railing, his eyes wide at the scene of total annihilation. The once crowded room is now a scorched, empty cavern of ash and rubble. "We did it!" Ryuji screams, his voice filled with triumphant relief. "We wiped them out!" On the balcony, Koharu celebrates, telling Maeda that Adachi's plan was perfect. Adachi is overcome with emotion, whispering that this feeling is the absolute best. She reflects that her book knowledge is finally being put to deadly practical use. Ryuji laughs nervously as Koharu calls him an amazing but scary person. Maeda praises their teamwork, admitting he was just hiding on the veranda. Koharu tearfully says she would have died if Maeda hadn't saved her earlier. The older man is flustered by the young girl's heartfelt thanks and praise. Ryuji smiles brightly, joking that as leader, he was the most helpful of all. Adachi reassures him that his leadership kept them from falling into chaos. Maeda agrees, raising a finger and declaring this a victory for the whole team. The four stand together, a newly forged and confident unit, smiling in the aftermath. Ryuji realizes he was wrong to think he had to do everything by himself. Far away, Huma sits on the giant sunflower's corpse, bored by the easy win. The monster's shadowy head begins to twitch, dark energy crackling across it. Huma looks up, his face blood-spattered, asking if the show is over already. The monster's voice taunts him, asking if he's already done playing. In the scorched room, the team assesses their massive haul, 100 kilograms of neomage. Ryuji checks his device, seeing he has enough neomage to return home alone. Maeda scoffs, saying no one would be selfish enough to leave by themselves. Ryuji thinks to himself that they are good people, facing a difficult choice. The options are clear: save their neomage for escape or buy better equipment. Ryuji argues for buying equipment, as their current guns are far too weak. Maeda agrees, preferring 6 safe battles over 3 desperate, life-threatening ones. Adachi concurs, adding that they should save some neomage for emergencies. Koharu meekly agrees with the plan to reinvest in their own survival. With the decision made, Ryuji resolves to use their new wealth wisely. A memory surfaces. Yamada tells Ryuji his reward conditions are different. Ryuji listens from a doorway, intrigued by the special offer being made. Yamada explains that his proven skill has advanced him to the next stage. He presents Ryuji with a special container for bringing neomage back home. Ryuji's eye widens, understanding the massive implications of this new contract. Yamada clarifies the payment: 1 yen for every gram of neomage returned. He paints a tempting picture. 2 tons of neomage would net 200 million yen. Ryuji recalls that the mighty muscle duck yielded a mere 70 kilograms. Yamada reassures him that the deeper he goes, the greater the rewards will be. Their interests are aligned, Yamada purrs, as Ryuji must go deep to save Rei. Trapped by his own desperate hope, Ryuji agrees to the devil's bargain. Back in the present, Ryuji's expression hardens with a secret, lonely resolve. He vows to get his team home safely before venturing deeper by himself. In the concourse, Yuma's katana carves through the regenerating sunflower vines. He stands his ground, his blade dripping with the monster's dark ichor. The monster taunts him, wondering why he hasn't turned into neomage yet. Its shadowy face is a disturbing, chaotic mass of countless watchful eyes. The creature lets out a deep, guttural groan that vibrates through the air. Huma tilts his head, casually asking if that was its death cry. A sudden, violent tremor shakes the ground, catching him completely by surprise. His sharp, animalistic eyes narrow, sensing a new and greater danger. A second giant sunflower erupts from the ground, a monstrous twin to the first. Huma sighs, lamenting that it took so long just to defeat one monster. He resigns himself to the new fight, saying there's no helping it now. Elsewhere, Ryuji's team runs as the shockwaves of the battle tear the building apart. A massive vine smashes through the wall, narrowly missing them in a shower of debris. Ryuji flinches from the sudden, violent impact of the collateral damage. Adachi stares at the destruction, demanding to know what just happened. Koharu hides behind Maeda, too terrified to even look at the chaos. Maeda clutches his ear, feeling a strange and unsettling sensation taking hold. They look down to see Huma facing two colossal, rampaging monsters. Koharu points, realizing the pro-gamer is now fighting the beast all alone. Huma skillfully parries a vine, his movements a blur of controlled violence. Adachi wonders aloud what could have happened to his three teammates. Ryuji grimly assumes they either ran for their lives or were killed. Koharu and Maeda look on, their faces etched with horror and deep concern. Ryuji's eyes burn with determination. He immediately decides they have to help him. He asks Adachi for a plan, but she needs time to think of one. Ryuji declares he'll join the fight to buy her the time she needs. Maeda smiles wryly, calling Ryuji a good person for wanting to help a stranger. He decides to go too, leaving the ranged fighters to formulate a strategy. "Don't die, Gengaru!" Koharu calls out as the older man rushes to join the fight. Down below, Huma is thrown back by a powerful sweeping attack from a vine. He grins, seeing a momentary opening as the monster recovers from its strike. His eyes narrow, focusing on his target for a swift and decisive blow. But the second monster whips around, forcing him to abort his attack. He flips through the air, narrowly dodging a volley of sharp seed projectiles. He lands in a low crouch, momentarily forced onto the defensive. He realizes that with two monsters, he has no clear opening to attack. The two giant sunflowers loom over him, a seemingly impossible, overwhelming threat. He looks up in disbelief as one of them prepares to fire more seeds. A powerful seed projectile explodes against an unseen barrier. Huma deflects the attack with his katana, thinking this is bad. The battle rages as Ryuji and Maeda fight side by side. Huma looks back, surprised by the sudden intervention. Ryuji turns with concern, shouting to ask if he is all right. Maeda grins, announcing that he is joining the fight. He thanks them for the lucky save, as Ryuji asks about Huma's teammates, who are now dead. Ryuji is shocked, while Maeda asks if he's serious. Two colossal sunflowers with sinister smiling faces loom over them. Ryuji grips his new bat, the perfect closer, knowing he must fight. With a mighty roar, he charges, swinging his bat at a thick vine. The bat connects, smashing into one of the smaller sunflower spawns. Maeda reveals his new weapon, the high-tech baton White Staff 48 IF. He declares his faith in the power of his new staff. He deflects a seed projectile with a shower of sparks. The weapon is strong, but he knows one direct hit would be fatal. Huma grins, thinking it's lucky they're targeting him. He leaps high, his katana carving into a massive woody vine. Ryuji is amazed by Huma's incredible reflexes, wondering how he defeated it. Huma explains that he is just chipping away at it bit by bit. Ryuji is stunned by the monster's incredible resilience. Maeda grimly states that at this rate they could die at any moment. The gash in the monster's vine quickly regenerates before their eyes. Maeda grits his teeth in frustration at their seemingly immortal foe. An energy blast from above obliterates one of the smaller sunflowers. Another one explodes in a flash of light from the covering fire. A volley of seed projectiles flies directly towards a lone Maeda. He realizes with horror they are coming from two directions at once. The projectiles are suddenly shot out of the air, their trajectories altered. Koharu reveals her new dual handguns, the Amem and Mamorum. She screams at Maeda not to space out, who thanks her for the save. From the balcony, Koharu and Adachi face one of the giant beasts. Adachi watches the desperate battle below with grim intensity. Ryuji realizes the sunflowers are now targeting Koharu. Maeda sees the shift in focus, knowing who their new opponent is. He and Ryuji leap forward, shouting to draw the monster's attention. From the balcony, Koharu thanks them for drawing the monster's fire. A massive vine swings down towards a lone, glowing Ryuji. He confirms that he is now the monster's primary target. He braces himself with a defiant shout, ready to meet the attack. With a primal scream, he pushes back against the incredible force. The impact sends him flying, crashing through a nearby wall. Maeda screams his name in terror. Koharu cries out in despair for their leader. Ryuji slumps against the shattered wall, battered but conscious. Koharu frantically asks Adachi for a plan, fearing their leader will die. Adachi snaps back, telling her to be quiet while she thinks. She never anticipated a foe this large and powerful. Ryuji stands alone, facing the two seemingly invincible behemoths. A smaller sunflower monster bursts forth from a seed pod. His lip bloody, Ryuji tells himself not to flinch. It's slower than a fastball. He swings his bat with a powerful shout, his form perfect. The bat connects with the monster's thick arm with a resounding crack. From above, Adachi watches his counterattack with surprise. Yuma cheers from across the concourse, calling him pitcher. Ryuji notices a strange, pulsating seed pod on the monster's vine. Another small sunflower monster bursts from the pod, ready to fight. He shouts in frustration at the endless reinforcements. Adachi has a sudden flash of insight. The monsters are plants. She explains that, like plants, their seeds must absorb nutrients uncontrollably. The giant sunflower begins to smolder as she realizes it can be poison. Huma listens to the plan, impressed by her clever strategy. Ryuji, filled with new hope, declares it is time for the final blow. Maida lets out a fierce cry, ready for the final assault. Koharu, her eyes blazing, screams that she will kill them all. She unleashes a furious barrage from her twin pistols. Maida joins in, his baton firing energy blasts at the giant's head. Ryuji and Huma charge through the chaos, clearing a path. The giant sunflower's shadowy face begins to dissolve under the onslaught. In the aftermath, the ruined concourse is silent and still. Glowing particles of neomage drift down like gentle snow. The 5 survivors stand exhausted but victorious, having cheated death again. Maida remarks that in the end, it was a life-or-death battle. Ryuji apologizes for getting them all involved in his fight. Huma thanks him for the save as the team formally introduces themselves. They realize they've collected a massive amount of neomage, enough to return. Ryuji smiles, believing this is where he must part ways with them. A close-up shows Maida's ear twitching with an unnatural sensitivity. He shouts a warning, sensing a large number of enemies approaching. Adachi and Ryuji are shocked that new foes are already here. Huma purrs, pleased that he won't be getting bored. Koharu panics, urging them to escape now that they can. A voice from above advises them against trying to run away. Ryuji is startled, realizing someone is speaking to them. The impeccably dressed green snakes descend the grand escalator. Their leader grins, calling his plan to kill them all extremely evil. His massive bodyguard echoes the sentiment with a menacing growl. The fashionable woman agrees, praising her young master's ruthlessness. The punk woman remarks that the situation is super very bad. Maida wonders if these new arrivals are more players. Ryuji stares in disbelief, asking if they are actually human. Maeda and Adachi are completely bewildered by the sudden turn of events. Huma watches the newcomers with a silent, calculating gaze. Adachi wonders if they are players or some new human-shaped monster. The green snake's leader angrily demands to know who they are. Maida pulls Koharu back, sensing the imminent danger. Huma suddenly shouts a warning, telling them to look up. The 2 giant sunflowers loom over them all, regenerated and armed. The green snake's leader looks up, his expression one of pure annoyance. Ryuji and the punk woman stare in awe at the huge humanoid monsters. The leader of the green snakes, Ashima, smiles cruelly at the chaos. He summons a huge cannon, vowing to end the monster in one shot. Ryuji gasps, shocked by the weapon's overwhelming size and power. From below, Shima takes aim, looking like a child with a titan's weapon. A brilliant beam of energy erupts, striking the giant sunflower head-on. The monster is completely vaporized in the blinding, concussive blast. Shima smugly asks his team if his display wasn't extremely evil. Adachi and Koharu are stunned, questioning the source of such immense power. Shima poses with his cannon, a vicious, triumphant grin on his face. Kato Huma is shown in a dynamic pose, his katana ready for battle. A red-haired boy screams Huma's name in a flash of future anguish. The punk rock girl, Konoe Chacha, looks on with a serious expression. The elegant woman, Hanabata Hatsu, watches with detached calm. The imposing bodyguard, Tudu Kuranosuke, stands with a grim look. Shima watches the chaos, a confident, predatory smirk on his face. The Green Snake's team poses under their logo, an aura of absolute menace. Ryuji stares at the newcomers, his face beaded with sweat and fear. Maida is equally tense, his eyes wide behind his sunglasses. Adachi looks on, her expression a mix of shock and apprehension. Koharu is terrified, her face pale with worry for what comes next. Shima demands to know who they are and from which gate they came. Ryuji, bewildered, asks where they could possibly be from but here. Koharu snaps that they are obviously from the real world, asking their team name. Adachi quickly realizes they must have entered Oyona through a different gate. Ryuji recalls Yamada Ichiro's briefing, remembering his unit's designation. He stands tall and declares with conviction that they are the Blue Fox. Shima scoffs, recognizing the vile methods of the Tetsuzu group. He finds their predictable appearance completely uninteresting and boring. Having lost all interest, he coldly orders his men to kill them. Maida and Koharu cry out in terror at the sudden, casual death sentence. Katu Huma lunges forward, declaring that Shima will be the one to die. Shima watches the surprise attack, his expression utterly unimpressed. Koharu and Ryuji can only watch the shocking turn of events. The bodyguard, Tudu, shouts a desperate warning to his young master. Huma grips his sword, his claw-like hand ready for the killing blow. The blade flashes through the air in a silver arc aimed at Shima's throat. With impossible speed, Shima stops the blade with just 2 fingers. Huma is stunned, muttering that his attack couldn't have failed. Shima smiles, confirming that Huma's desperate strike was useless. He flicks Huma away and fires his energy cannon at the airborne boy. The blast tears through Huma's chest in a brutal spray of blood. Shima watches the result, his own face speckled with his opponent's blood. Ryuji screams Huma's name, his face contorted in absolute horror. Huma's broken body crashes hard against the shattered concrete floor. Maida and Adachi stare in shock at the brutal, one-sided display of power. Tudu notes Huma's superhuman speed, saying his master would have died otherwise. He asks if his young master's all right, but Shima waves him off. Shima taunts the Blue Fox team, calling their gear worthless and evil. Ryuji looks on, his expression a mix of raw fear and growing defiance. Adachi wonders how the blade was stopped, questioning their enemy's defenses. Shima tells them not to resist, as the power gap is hopelessly vast. The team despairs, Koharu crying out for someone, anyone, to help them. Ryuji glares, asking why they are so intent on murdering them. He asks if they don't realize that death in Oyona is permanent. Shima retorts that of course he knows, it's just common sense. Ryuji asks why he would still kill people, even knowing the truth. Shima casually explains that his family's business is the Yakuza. Adachi and Koharu react in horror, understanding the grim implications. Shima lays out his brutal strategy: let others work, then kill them. Maida realizes they are simply being treated as prey in a hunting ground. Koharu likens the horrific tactic to player killing in online games. Yuji reflects on the value of numage, paid for by Tetsuzu. He grits his teeth, the cruel injustice of their situation sinking in. A flashback shows Yamada explaining that Oyona has a layered structure. A diagram illustrates the path from the real world to Oyona's first layer. It explains that deeper layers have stronger monsters and more numage. Yamada reveals that no one has yet reached the deepest final layer. Back in the present, Ryuji asks why they must be enemies. Shima is taken aback by the naive question, simply answering, huh? Ryuji suggests cooperation, arguing that stronger allies would be a benefit. He states that more allies are better when aiming for the deep layers. Shima turns away, a flicker of thought crossing his face for a moment. He turns back, shouting in disbelief that they would aim for the deep layers. He dismisses them as maggots who should just go home with their earnings. Ryuji clenches his fist, angered by the condescending insult. Adachi is also visibly angered by Shima's dismissive words. She steels herself, acknowledging that this is simply how things are. Shima sneers, calling the idea of cooperating with maggots extremely evil. Ryuji defiantly declares that he is aiming for the deeper layers. Shima looks at him, his expression turning to one of slight surprise. He asks what Ryuji's motivation is, what benefit he could possibly have. Ryuji, his face shadowed, states that he does indeed have a benefit. He roars that he will bring his best friend back to life. Maida looks on, stunned by this sudden, earth-shattering revelation. Koharu whispers Ryuji's title, leader, her eyes wide with emotion. Adachi is also moved, acknowledging the incredible depth of his resolve. Shima pauses, considering this new information, with a thoughtful, A slow, cruel smile spreads across his face as he finds the situation interesting. He proposes a test to see if Ryuji is worthy of his attention. He challenges Ryuji to a duel, offering to spare them all for one hit. His bodyguard praises the excellent terms of the one-sided offer. Ryuji, his face set with grim determination, accepts the challenge. Shima says he'll allow Ryuji his weak weapon, though it could still be fatal. Koharu and Maeda celebrate this sliver of hope, praising their leader's courage. Adachi looks on with a blush, moved by Ryuji's willingness to fight. But before the duel can begin, a voice tells them all to wait. A miraculously healed Huma confronts Shima, declaring that he will fight him. Adachi, Maeda, and Koharu stare in disbelief at Huma's impossible recovery. Ryuji shouts Huma's name, realizing his fatal wounds have vanished. An empty Kiznal Y canister lies on the ground, having cost Huma everything. Shima condescendingly agrees to fight them both at once, calling it a handicap. The insult clearly irritates Huma, whose face twists into a defiant sneer. Kakeru stares in disbelief, shocked by the prospect of a two-on-one fight. The two teams face off across the vast, ruined concourse, the stage now set. Maida worries if they have a chance, but Adachi keeps her faith in their leader. Shima's lieutenants watch coolly, assessing their opponents with detached amusement and disdain. Huma leans in, questioning Kakeru's choice of weapons against their gun-wielding foe. Kakeru's gaze is fixed, his expression tense as he considers the challenging question. Huma presses the point, asking why he didn't buy a gun to ensure victory. Kakeru admits he never imagined he would have to fight other people in this world. A memory surfaces of him wondering which weapon he should choose for the trials ahead. He sat alone knowing more expensive weapons were likely stronger, but he was unsure. His hand hovered over the OYONAMALL, considering a gun before spotting something familiar. A flicker of recognition crossed his face as he noticed a peculiar item listing. A note explained that familiar real-world tools could manifest special powers in Oyona. The phrase "a well-used tool" echoed in his mind, sparking a powerful idea. In the present, Shima readies his pistols, a gleeful smile on his face. With a shared shout, Kakeru and Huma charge forward to begin the duel. Shima opens fire, his movements a blur of deadly acrobatic grace. They are forced to split apart, dodging a relentless barrage of energy blasts. Kakeru knows that a single direct hit from those pistols would be fatal. Shima taunts them, firing with casual precision while weaving through their attacks. Kakeru grits his teeth as his bat deflects a shot near his head. Huma leaps into the air, his own attack aimed at their airborne opponent. Shima moves with impossible speed, a blur of white against the ruined backdrop. Kakeru watches from below, his bat held ready for the perfect opening. Shima looks down from above, his expression one of pure predatory amusement. Kakeru's eye widens, tracking the impossibly fast movements of his opponent. Shima laughs, raining down fire from above with a series of powerful blasts. Kakeru grits his teeth, admitting he completely lost sight of him for a moment. From above, Shima mockingly asks if they are having fun yet. Huma snarls back that it won't be fun until he riddles him with holes. He leaps high, his katana a silver arc aimed directly at the gunslinger. Shima fires a single, precisely aimed shot at the flat of Huma's blade. The bullet deflects the sword, the impact sending a shockwave through the steel. Huma is stunned by his opponent's incredible skill and audacity. Shima continues to fire, effortlessly pairing Huma's blade with his bullets. Huma is thrown off balance, his powerful mid-air assault completely neutralized. Shima notes that Huma's movements are impressive, especially with basic equipment. From the sidelines, Maida can only describe the spectacle as a superhuman battle. Koharu watches in disbelief, amazed that he is deflecting a sword with bullets. Kakeru watches his partner's struggle, acknowledging Huma's incredible, desperate skill. The mid-air clash has created an opening, leaving Shima's back exposed. Kakeru charges forward to exploit the momentary distraction, his bat raised high. He knows Shima has noticed him, but believes Huma will follow up. Shima's eyes dart sideways, aware of the incoming attack from behind. Without turning, he blocks Kakeru's bat with the frame of his pistol. He smirks, confirming that he was aware of the pincer attack. Kakeru strains against the block, his attack completely stopped by the gun. His eyes blaze as he screams for Huma to seize the opening he created. Huma roars, diving in for what he believes is the decisive strike. But it was a trap. Huma lands hard, his body broken. He grimaces in pain, spitting blood onto the shattered concrete floor. A close-up reveals his mangled legs, now useless in a pool of blood. His teammates watch in horror, realizing his thighs were shot mid-lunge. Kakeru can only watch, realizing his partner has been taken out of the fight. Shima advances on him, stating he can't win against an opponent Huma couldn't hit. He taunts Kakeru, saying his spirit is broken and he has no reason to continue. He raises his pistol, declaring that Kakeru will die here, his journey over. Kakeru stares, his face a mask of despair as the threat of death looms. The question hangs in his mind. Is it truly impossible for him to win? A montage of his failures flashes before his eyes, fueling his despair. He thinks of his family and of Rei, apologizing for his weakness. But a memory of a gymnasium cuts through, Rei's voice echoing from the past. He remembers Rei telling him to believe in his own strength and focus. Rei's face is a mask of fierce determination, ordering him not to lose heart. The memory gives Kakeru a flicker of his former resolve. Another memory, more painful, surfaces. Rei's final, desperate plea in the forest. Rei grabs him, screaming that he is still alive and has people to save. Rei's last command was simple and absolute. Think only of winning. Kakeru's eyes blaze with a new fire as he blocks an incoming shot. Shima stares in genuine shock, his blast deflected by the simple metal bat. He fires again, but the bat holds, the impact sending sparks flying. Kakeru's mind is clear. He will think of nothing but victory. He deflects a relentless barrage of shots, his stance firm and unwavering. Shima realizes Kakeru is performing far beyond his equipment's specs, an awakening. Kakeru digs his heel in, preparing to launch a counterattack. His eyes are filled with a white-hot, unbreakable determination. He knows Shima's final, decisive blow is coming, and he must parry it. His gaze is sharp, his focus absolute as he prepares for the impact. He swings, his bat a blur as he smashes into Shima's side. He moves with impossible speed, his movements now a fluid, deadly ballet. Shima's smug expression gives way to one of pained surprise. He screams for Kakeru to die as he unleashes another point-blank blast. Kakeru twists his body, using the bat to deflect the shot downward. Shima is thrown off balance, his face a mask of disbelief. Kakeru's hand flashes out, ready to land the decisive blow. His voice is a low growl, his entire being focused on a single word: win! From the sidelines, Todo observes that the tide of the battle has turned. He realizes Kakeru was baiting Shima, luring him into a predictable rhythm. Hanabata agrees, noting that the boy with the bat is quite skilled. Cha-Cha watches in silence, her expression unreadable as the duel concludes. Kakeru grits his teeth, his body screaming with the effort of the fight. Cha-Cha takes a bite from an apple, her gaze fixed on the unfolding battle. Kakeru deflects another furious volley of shots, his movements precise and economical. In a stunning display, he uses his bare hand to deflect a bullet. His face is a mask of pure concentration, sweat beading on his brow. Shima pants, a flicker of surprise and respect in his eyes. He admits Kakeru's grip is impressive for holding on through the impacts. He presses his gun against the bat, declaring that this is the end. The duel reached its apex, Ryuji locked in a desperate grapple with Takemaru. Takemaru fired at point-blank range, but Ryuji held firm, blocking with his bat. "What?" Takemaru cried, shocked that his opponent was still standing. Ryuji's teammates could only watch the impossible standoff with wide, stunned eyes. The members of the Green Snakes were equally frozen, witnessing their leader's struggle. Ryuji's hands strained, the metal bat glowing as it absorbed the raw energy. Takemaru couldn't believe it, thinking Ryuji's arm should have been blown off. The two warriors were locked in a contest of pure will, neither giving an inch. Takemaru grunted, surprised by the sheer force of Ryuji's desperate defense. With a furious roar, Ryuji vowed that he would absolutely emerge victorious. Cha-Cha watched the struggle with a look of intense, unreadable focus. The air crackled with anticipation for the final, decisive blow. Cha-Cha smirked, acknowledging that the baseball boy was surprisingly good. With a final surge, Ryuji's fist smashed directly into Takemaru's face. The impact was a silent, violent explosion of force. The single, decisive hit landed, ending the duel in a shocking twist. The Blue Fox team stared, their minds unable to process what they just saw. The Green Snakes were equally flabbergasted, their jaws agape in disbelief. Takemaru cried out in pain as he was sent reeling from the powerful punch. Ryuji, panting, confirmed that he had successfully landed his one promised hit. He wondered if this counted as a win or a knockout, admitting he was spent. Still, he found the strength to declare he could land as many hits as needed. The Green Snakes immediately surrounded the kneeling boy, their weapons drawn. Their bodyguard, Kuranosuke, loomed over him, stating that the fight was over. Hatsu congratulated him but warned him not to try landing another hit. Cha-Cha leaned in close, a cruel smirk on her face as she called him baseball boy. Takemaru rose to his feet, walking slowly toward the surrounded Ryuji. He touched his bruised and bleeding face, the reality of his defeat sinking in. He tossed a healing canister to Ryuji, commanding him to use it. Ryuji caught the item, wincing from the pain racking his body. The canister was a Kisnell Y, an item capable of instant, miraculous healing. Takemaru then threw another canister to Hyuma, telling him to use it or die. Hyuma lay on the ground, his legs still mangled from the earlier blast. He sat up, cursing that he had wanted to be the one to land the first blow. Activating the item, a brilliant light enveloped his wounds, knitting them closed. He tested his newly healed legs, declaring himself perfectly fine. Koharu cried out, telling him not to move so suddenly after such a grave injury. Takemaru watched the scene with a cold, calculating expression. Kuranosuke commented that taking on all three of them might have been impossible. Adachi tended to Ryuji's hand, amazed that his wounds had healed in an instant. Takemaru's voice cut through the air, asking for their names. The boy introduced himself as Hanabushi Ryuji. The feral warrior rose, declaring himself to be Katu Hyuma. Their opponent gave a theatrical bow, introducing himself as Asai Takemaru. The hulking bodyguard stated his name was Kuranosuke. The fashionable woman with two-toned hair said she was Hanabata Hatsu. The punk rock woman simply stated her name was Cha-Cha. Takamaru offered a truce, saying he would recognize their strength as promised. He asked if they would join forces with him to explore the depths of Oyona. Huma listened to the proposition with a sly, interested grin. Takamaru warned them to become useful, or he would simply let them die. After a moment of consideration, Ryuji agreed to the tense alliance. Takamaru turned to leave, commanding his subordinates to follow. Cha-Cha glanced back over her shoulder with a thoughtful expression. His team gathered around Ryuji, Maeda thanking him for saving their lives. Ryuji suddenly called out, telling Takamaru to wait. Takamaru looked back, a question mark hanging in the air. Maeda and Koharu tried to stop Ryuji, telling him to let them go. Ryuji insisted, saying he had just one question he needed to ask. He asked if it was true that an item to revive the dead existed here. Takamaru paused on the escalator, his expression unreadable. He scoffed, calling Ryuji an idiot for chasing such a desperate hope. Ryuji pleaded with him, begging him to answer the question anyway. Takamaru's condescending demeanor faded into a quiet seriousness. He confirmed that it did exist and could be found on the second layer. The revelation hit Ryuji with the force of a physical blow. He realized with dawning hope that he could actually save Rei. Hatsu quietly asked Takamaru if it was okay, but he dismissed her concern. Takamaru spoke of Oyona as a hell without morals, driven by human desire. He challenged Ryuji to face that abyss without breaking, calling it extremely evil. Cha-Cha watched Ryuji from the top of the escalator, her expression unreadable. She then stopped, turning back towards the Blue Fox team. "Ryuji," she called out, getting his attention. She playfully asked if he had managed to remember her name. Confused, Ryuji confirmed that her name was Cha-Cha. A small, almost shy smile touched Cha-Cha's lips. Maeda, Koharu, and Huma looked on, bewildered by the strange interaction. In a blur of motion, Cha-Cha closed the distance and kissed him. Adachi watched the scene with a cool, stoic detachment. Their lips met, a moment of shocking intimacy in the ruined concourse. Ryuji's eye was wide with pure, unadulterated shock. Cha-Cha pulled away, waving cheerfully and telling him not to die. Kuranosuke noted that Cha-Cha had taken a liking to Ryuji, which Takamaru deemed extremely evil. Maeda teased a flustered Ryuji about his new admirer as his teammates reacted. The scene shifted to the ruined, empty interior of a dilapidated cafeteria. The team sat at a table, reflecting on the chaos of the day's events. Huma declared it had been fun, despite learning monsters weren't the only threat. Adachi thoughtfully considered that there must be other teams active in Oyona. She theorized that other organizations were sending people into this world. Ryuji smiled, suggesting they should just try to return to reality for now. He brought up their wrist devices, asking if everyone had enough Nyomage to leave. Koharu and Adachi checked their balances, noting the giant sunflowers were very profitable. Huma saw that he was nearly broke after paying for repairs and healing items. Maeda asked Koharu to check his balance, realizing he didn't have enough to return. Ryuji immediately offered to give Maeda the Nyomage he needed. Maeda looked at him, realizing Ryuji intended to send them home and go on alone. With a quiet yes, Ryuji confirmed his solitary intentions. Adachi looked at her leader, her face a mask of quiet concern. Huma suddenly stood up, declaring that he was staying in Oyona. Ryuji was stunned, asking what possible business he could have in this place. Katu Huma licks his lollipop, slyly suggesting he holds a secret. Maeda Gengaru decides to stay, unable to simply leave with Ryuji's earnings. Ryuji is stunned into silence by Maeda's sudden, unexpected show of loyalty. Minami Koharu gleefully admits that she doesn't want to go home either. Adachi Kahana slams the table, declaring she will also stay with them. Ryuji shouts in protest, desperately insisting that they must all go home. He reminds them they've all experienced how deadly this place truly is. Huma points out they each came for money they need back home. A fleeting memory of his smiling sister, Eri, strengthens his resolve. He insists again, his voice trembling, that they have to return. Maeda explains the guilt of leaving Ryuji to die would be unbearable. Ryuji counters that he couldn't live with himself if they died for him. He then reveals his situation is different from the rest of the team. Adachi, intrigued by his statement, asks him what he means by that. He explains that for him, there is no flat reward for simply returning. His special contract allows him to sell Nyomage for 1 yen per gram. Maeda listens intently, intrigued by this new and critical piece of information. Ryuji reveals his true purpose, to earn enough to revive his best friend. He argues that for them, continuing on only increases their personal risk. Maeda thoughtfully considers Ryuji's desperate, heartfelt plea to leave him. Adachi's eyes narrow as the gears in her strategic mind begin to turn. She proposes a solution that hinges entirely on Ryuji's cooperation. Ryuji can only stare back at her, completely bewildered by her idea. She lays out a brilliant plan to pull Neomage for him to cash out. He is stunned, realizing that such a simple, elegant solution exists. The rest of the team enthusiastically voices their support for the new plan. Adachi then begins to share her own personal reasons for being there. Her family's soba shop has fallen on hard times due to the pandemic. She reveals she took this dangerous job just to help her family survive. Because of this, she declares that she wants as much money as possible. Ryuji looks at her with a newfound respect and profound understanding. She hints that there is another reason for her decision to stay. He looks at her intently, asking what else is on her mind. Adachi Kahana gazes at Ryuji, her cheeks flushed and eyes full of emotion. Overwhelmed, she turns away, insisting that it was absolutely nothing at all. Ryuji is left completely bewildered as Adachi tries to hide her flustered expression. Maeda notes how fast her heart must be racing, while Koharu hopes for romance. When asked for his reason, Maeda's playful demeanor suddenly becomes serious. He reveals he is searching for his missing wife, stunning Ryuji and Koharu. A memory surfaces of his wife, who vanished 5 years ago without a trace. He needs money to fund the search, but his options are desperately limited. It was then that a colleague told him about this dangerous part-time job. He declares that this job is his big chance. He just has to earn it. Ryuji realizes with a heavy heart that everyone is carrying their own burdens. Adachi then speaks, claiming her own reasons might be the most serious of all. The team sits together in the ruined cafeteria, a moment of quiet confession. She has no desire to study, only wanting to stay home and play video games. Her parents pressure her, insisting she must work if she won't go to university. Ryuji looks on, shocked by the unexpected nature of her personal struggle. She doesn't want to study, go to school, or ever have to get a job. With tears in her eyes, she screams she needs money to be a lifelong shut-in. Maeda is taken aback by her shallow reason, breaking the intense atmosphere. Katu Yuma, however, cracks a wide grin, finding her honesty very interesting. With their reasons revealed, Ryuji asks if they are all prepared to move forward. Adachi responds with a small, confident smile, her resolve now firm. Maeda and Koharu exchange a look, their decision made in silent agreement. Seeing their resolve, Ryuji accepts their pact and agrees to proceed together. Huma's feral eyes show his own unwavering determination to continue the fight. A mix of hope and anxiety fills the air, a fragile sense of camaraderie. He prays that no one else will be lost, that they can all return safely. The 5 warriors, now a true team, walk out into the light of Oyona. But their moment is shattered as Maeda runs for his life, screaming in terror. A maniacal woman in a truck roars past, threatening to kill them all. The armored truck's wheels tear up the street, a new chaos descending upon them. Peeking from cover, Koharu watches the new threat with wide, worried eyes. The truck, filled with cheering thugs, bears down on the fleeing Maeda. In the chaos of Oyona, a terrified man screams for someone to save him. A hand is splattered with blood as its owner lets out a soft gasp. Adachi Kahana, flustered, leans against a pillar with a sudden blush on her face. From high above, the impeccably dressed green snakes survey the ruined city below them. Konechicha looks on, her expression thoughtful and detached from the surrounding chaos. She reflects that trying to save everyone in this brutal world is a fool's errand. Suddenly, monstrous ape-like creatures leap across the city's desolate rooftops. One of the beasts, a Saruta, lets out a sharp, chittering cry. Maeda Gengaru screams in panic, frantically counting the dozen leaping monsters. The Blue Fox team flees as Ryuji shouts about their relentless rooftop pursuit. Ryuji questions their tactics, but Huma suggests they are just being toyed with. One of the creatures proves him right, spitting a swirling orb of fire. Huma can only manage a choke sound of utter disbelief at the attack. The fireball slams into the rooftop, erupting in a violent concussive blast. Ryuji stares at the crater, screaming in shock that it was a fireball. Adachi screams a warning, urging everyone to take cover inside the building. A Saruta watches from above, rubbing its claws together with a malevolent laugh. Inside, Maeda demands to know what happened, shocked that monkeys can use fire. He then smiles grimly, realizing nothing in Oyona should surprise him anymore. Huma clarifies that the creatures are not monkeys, but have moles' faces. He grins, amused they produced fireballs as if performing a simple magic trick. Ryuji strategizes, wondering how to fight an enemy that refuses to engage directly. Adachi approaches him with a solution, holding out a small white sphere. He takes the object, cautiously asking her to identify its strange contents. With a sly smile, Adachi reveals the sphere is filled with gasoline. An idea forms, and with a determined look, Ryuji accepts the dangerous plan. He steps out onto the fire-scorched rooftop alone, facing the horde of creatures. He points at his foes, promising to show them what real pitching looks like. The Tsuruta tilt their heads, confused by the strange boy's bold declaration. Ryuji falls into a familiar stance, his body coiling with practiced ease. The years of baseball practice take over as he begins his powerful windup. He releases the sphere, his fingers gripping it just like a perfect fastball. The gasoline-filled ball flies true, a perfect strike aimed at his enemy. The glowing capsule sails true, a desperate pitch into the monster's roaring, open mouth. A monstrous, ape-like creature is struck by a fireball on a rooftop railing. Two of the beasts cry out, frantically patting at their scorched faces. One of them lets out a furious, pained roar, its features contorted. Another fireball, launched from a skyscraper high above, streaks towards its target. Adachi observes that the creature was doused in gasoline before being set alight. The subsequent explosion rocks the top of a building in a brilliant flash. Ryuji stares in disbelief, his plan having gone terribly spectacularly wrong. Adachi, however, seems pleased with the results of her fiery experiment. Now a living torch, the enraged creature turns on its own kind in a frenzy. Yuma laughs with delight, realizing the other monsters are fleeing in terror. Adachi calmly analyzes their mistake. The open air prevented a true explosion. Koharu cheekily notes the irony of fire-breathing apes running away from fire. Ryuji looks up as the fleeing Tsuruta begin to regroup on the rooftops. Koharu, lost in her music, opens fire on a creature leaping towards them. Maeda lunges forward, his glowing baton deflecting another beast midair. Huma joins the chaotic fray, his katana a silver blur of deadly motion. Ryuji brings his bat down with devastating force onto a monster's back. The brutal rooftop battle leaves a trail of destruction in its wake. As Numage falls like snow, Ryuji reflects that they've grown used to combat. The team stands together, having survived for half a grueling day in Oyona. Huma remarks that the fight became an easy victory after the apes arrived. Adachi notes the creatures stopped using fire magic after seeing their comrade burn. Ryuji knows they must carefully choose their next battles to gather more Numage. His device shows their current total, a little over 94 kilograms of Numage. He understands that unexpected monsters can appear no matter how careful they are. He checks his inventory, confirming he has a crucial, instant healing item. He also makes sure he still possesses the return core, their only way home. The Blue Fox jacket he purchased offers little comfort. Their funds are low. Huma shows Ryuji a strange red Numage crystal he found on a corpse. As Huma holds the crystal, a strange light emanates from Ryuji's device. His teammates panic, thinking the cursed Numage might be harming their leader. Ryuji checks his screen, assuring them that nothing seems to be wrong. His eyes suddenly widen as he notices something new on the OYONAMALL. A notification flashes announcing that a new product, Magic, has been unlocked. Maeda and Koharu stare in wide-eyed wonder at the prospect of using Magic. The featured item is Fireball, costing a steep 20 kilograms of Numage. The team buzzes with excitement, realizing it's the same magic the apes used. Ryuji worries about the high cost and the extra Numage needed to cast it. Yuma jokes that 20 kilograms is too much, as Koharu loves watching others spin. The team stands on a quiet rooftop, contemplating what they should do next. Maeda asks Ryuji to bring up the map to see what it looks like now. The map of the first layer shows their current location marked on the grid. Adachi explains that the map automatically fills in as they explore new areas. Koharu points to a new glowing ring that has just appeared on the map. Ryuji instantly recognizes it as the location of the gate to the second layer. Koharu is impressed that their leader charmed a woman into giving them a map. Adachi smiles knowingly, patting a flustered Koharu on the head. Huma, with a cheerful grin, asks how far away the gate is. Adachi, playfully pinching Koharu's cheeks, estimates it's about 10 kilometers. Ryuji looks out at the cityscape, contemplating the long journey ahead. Adachi calculates it would take 2.5 hours, even longer with monsters. Maeda warns Ryuji to be careful, as his death would doom them all. He then suggests that it is finally time for them to retreat. Adachi and Koharu look on, their expressions serious as they listen. Huma's gaze is sharp and thoughtful as he considers the older man's words. Maeda explains they've been fighting for 6 hours, running on adrenaline alone. He insists they should return to reality while they have the strength to do so. Adachi agrees, understanding his urgency, but knows that if Ryuji dies, it's over. Koharu timidly voices her agreement. She wants to go home. Ryuji reluctantly concedes, admitting that pushing on today seems impossible. Suddenly, a piercing scream echoes from the street below. The team whips around, startled by the sudden, desperate cry for help. A woman in a black bodysuit runs for her life from an armored truck. Maida and Adachi realize with horror that a girl is being chased by a jeep. The fleeing woman's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. She sprints towards the Blue Fox team, screaming for them to save her. Ryuji immediately asks Koharu if she can shoot out the truck's tires. Koharu takes aim with her pistol and fires a powerful energy blast. The bolt of energy strikes the thick armored tire dead on, but the shot ricochets harmlessly, barely scratching the reinforced rubber. The driver of the truck cries out in surprise at the sudden attack. The thugs in the back are startled by the failed attempt to stop them. The truck screeches to a halt as the woman finally reaches the team. She collapses at Ryuji's feet, desperately begging him to help her. Ryuji, his face etched with concern, asks her what happened. She explains that her own teammates are trying to kill her for sport. Adachi grimly realizes they are from another company of players. Maida despairs at the sight of yet more humans killing each other. The four thugs disembark, demanding to know why their fun was interrupted. Koharu is disgusted by their appearance, seeing them as stereotypical thugs. Ryuji steps forward, placing a protective hand on the rescued woman's shoulder. He stares down the thugs, telling them to leave or become his enemy. The woman he's defending blushes, thinking he is an incredibly good person. Adachi, too, seems flustered by his sudden and brave declaration. Koharu mutters under her breath about the romance flags being raised. The thugs mock his heroics, sneering that his bravado will cost him dearly. Their leader, Sato, scoffs that this lawless place is no place for good boys. He declares that humans who have lost their morals are no longer needed here. His men brag about the people they've killed for money and pleasure. They then notice Adachi and Koharu, pleased to have more female targets. Adachi finds them disgusting, as Huma wonders if he should make them cry. Suddenly, Maida senses a deep vibration, his face tight with alarm. Ryuji turns towards the thugs, his face a mask of grim determination. Maida yells for Ryuji to wait, warning that something is moving underground. Adachi and Koharu look on in shock, repeating his dire warning. Huma tilts his head, confused by the sudden and unseen threat. The thugs mock Maida, asking if he's crazy, before laughing maniacally. A deep, violent rumbling fills the air, shaking the very foundations of the city. A colossal, clawed paw erupts from the asphalt, silencing their laughter forever. A swirling vortex of dark energy forms where the monster emerged from the abyss. Adachi Kahana stares in disbelief, gasping that the creature is simply too big. The thugs who had been chasing Rin now scream in terror, wondering what to do. Ryuji's face is a mask of grim determination, the gravity of the situation setting in. He gasps, his eyes wide with shock at the impossible sight before him. A desperate idea forms as he sees the crater the beast emerged from. The feral boy, Huma, thinks this reckless plan might actually be a good one. Maida clutches his head as Koharu yells for him to follow her through the chaos. The rescued woman, Rin, whimpers that she can't take any more of this nightmare. A massive hairy foot slams down with earth-shattering force. Rin is paralyzed with fear, convinced that her end has finally come. In a burst of motion, Ryuji scoops the terrified woman into his arms. Rin looks up at him, her fear momentarily replaced by blushing shock. With a primal roar, Ryuji sprints away from the danger, carrying her to safety. Adachi screams from the sidelines, urging her leader to hurry. Ryuji grits his teeth, pushing his body to its absolute limit. His foot finds purchase on the broken asphalt as he propels them forward. From the crater's depths, a swirling vortex of dark energy begins to form. The vortex implodes with concussive force, shaking the very ground. Ryuji and Rin are thrown backward by the powerful shockwave. Adachi winces, bracing herself against the violent blast of energy. Maeda yells that the noise will deafen them as Koharu cries out in fear. One of the thugs is frozen in place, his face a mask of pure terror. His companion is similarly catatonic, overwhelmed by the monstrous power. When the dust settles, a massive, perfectly circular crater is all that remains. Adachi looks out over the devastation, wondering if they survived the blast. Ryuji checks on Rin, who stammers her thanks, still shaking. He cautiously peeks over the edge of the newly formed chasm. The colossal king mole stands in the center of the crater, waiting. Ryuji's face drains of all color as he beholds the true scale of their foe. Maeda despairs, laughing grimly that there is no way to fight such a thing. Adachi worries that a fireball of that magnitude would be a suicide attack. Huma agrees, noting healing items are useless if you're completely vaporized. A steely resolve forms in Ryuji's eyes as he stares down the impossible beast. The king mole watches them, its expression conveying a primal, terrifying intelligence. Ryuji and Maeda break into a desperate run across the ruined street. The monster's massive clawed paw descends upon them like a falling building. Ryuji shoves Adachi forward as bait, and she screams for him to let her go. The beast's claws snap shut with incredible force, but they close on empty air. At the last possible second, Ryuji yanks Adachi back, saving her from its grasp. The team regroups on the street, the immediate danger averted, but the threat looming. The thug leader, Sato, yells in confusion, wondering what the strange growth on his hand is. Adachi's eyes widen in recognition. She has seen that infectious touch before. She recalls the Saruta, realizing this new monster also has a mole-like face. The king mole begins to curl its massive body, tucking its limbs inward. Ryuji sees the new threat forming and screams for everyone to get back. Now a colossal, rolling ball of fur and fury, the monster charges forward. The living avalanche barrels towards them, tearing up the street as it comes. Ryuji looks up, his face a mask of terror as the monster bears down on him. The beast uncurls, its shadowy face revealed once more as Koharu squeaks in fear. The thugs can only scream, one of them wailing at its impossible size. Rin's mind reels, unable to process being hunted by a monster after escaping killers. Maeda questions if this is a video game, as a giant emerges from the ground. Adachi quickly analyzes its powers. A mole's digging and an ape's agility. Huma watches the chaos unfold, a determined smirk on his face. Ryuji's mind races, desperately trying to formulate a plan in the face of annihilation. The monster's paw looms over the entire group, ready to crush them all. Adachi gasps in horror, realizing there is no escape from the attack. Huma grits his teeth, knowing a beast of that size is incredibly dangerous. The massive paw fills their vision as it descends for the final blow. Ryuji lets out a desperate primal scream, telling everyone to run for their lives. The monster curls into its rolling form again, continuing its relentless assault. Ryuji, Maeda, and Huma sprint away from the unstoppable, destructive force. The monster stands amidst the rubble as Rin asks what this abomination is. The thugs panic, screaming that they're going to be killed by a monster. Maeda and Koharu look on, their faces grim and filled with dread. Huma glances over his shoulder, a glint of defiance in his animalistic eyes. Their feet pound against the broken pavement as they flee for their lives. The team stands at the crater's edge, trapped between a monster and a chasm. Adachi looks on, her expression a mixture of fear and strategic calculation. Ryuji's mind races, desperately asking himself what he is supposed to do. Maeda calls out his name, his voice filled with a desperate urgency. He pleads with Ryuji, yelling that they must escape back to the real world. Koharu looks on, her large eyes filled with worry for her teammates. Adachi's gaze is fixed on Ryuji, her expression serious and unwavering. Rin watches the argument, her own fate hanging in the balance. Huma assesses the situation, his gaze sharp and calculating. Maeda lays out their only option. They have their return cores and must retreat now. Ryuji stares at the beast, his voice low as he says it's impossible to defeat. He looks down, the weight of the innocent lives he might abandon crushing him. Maeda points out the harsh truth. Only their team is prepared to escape. Rin's eyes widen in horror as she realizes she has no way out of this hell. Maeda tells her that in this world, she must rely on her own strength to escape. Koharu and Adachi watch their friend, calling his name with concern. Maeda yells that they are not gods, they cannot save everyone they see. Ryuji whirls on him, shouting that his priority is to revive Rei. He cannot and will not allow himself to die in this place. The thugs, seeing their chance, demand that the team do something to save them. Adachi mutters a curse at the selfish delinquents under her breath. Rin clenches her fists, her decision made, and tells them to please go. She forces a bright, courageous smile, insisting that she will be all right. Ryuji is stunned into silence by her act of selfless bravery. He grits his teeth, his own path forward now painfully clear. He turns to his team, ordering all Blue Fox members to return to the real world. Adachi is shocked by his sudden, authoritative command. Koharu is equally surprised, her eyes wide with disbelief. Huma looks on, his expression unreadable but attentive. Maeda nods in approval, telling Ryuji it is the right decision for a leader. With a steely gaze, Ryuji declares that he will be the one to lure the monster away. Adachi looks at him, horrified by his suicidal plan. Huma's lips curl into a wide, predatory grin, intrigued by the challenge. With the colossal king mole cornered, Ryuji tells his team to flee in the opposite direction. Maeda shouts Ryuji's name, protesting the suicidal plan he has just announced. Ryuji flashes a weary smile, insisting he will escape with his return core if things get too dangerous. Adachi can only stare, her face a mask of silent horror at his decision. He turns to the thugs, declaring he will risk his life and warning them to leave the girl alone. The three thugs look on, their expressions a mix of fear and cold calculation. They agree to the terms, yelling at him to get on with it and lead the monster away. A heavy silence falls as a decision is made in the heart of the chaos. Katu Huma appears at Ryuji's side with a feral grin, announcing that he's joining the plan. He declares with relish that he too will play the part of the decoy. Huma explains he can't bear running away without a rematch against his rival, Takemaru. With a challenging look, he tells Ryuji that he's counting on him to fight, not just flee. Ryuji looks back, a new sense of partnership dawning in his eyes. Maeda watches the two of them stand together, a two-man army against a god. Ryuji quickly turns to Adachi, asking if she still has the gasoline ball. She places it in his hands, pleading with him not to die and to always come back home. With his final weapon secured, Ryuji turns his attention to one last matter. He approaches the rescued girl, his face slightly flushed as he prepares to speak. She asks for his name, and he introduces himself as Hanabuchi Ryuji. She reveals she is Suzutani Rin of the Red Cat team, thanking him profusely. With tears in her eyes, she begs him to survive so they can meet again. He gives her a small, determined smile and agrees to her heartfelt request. Maeda decides to escort Rin to safety, sparing her the sight of the coming battle. Ryuji offers a final, quiet thank you to all of his friends. "All right, Huma, let's go," he yells, and the two of them launch into action. The two warriors charge headlong towards the towering, monstrous king mole. Adachi, Kaharu, and Rin watch them go, their faces etched with deep concern. The king mole lets out a deafening roar, its red eyes locking onto its targets. It smashes its massive fist into the ground, sending debris flying as the boys dodge. Seeing the chase begin, Maeda yells for the rest of the group to run. They scramble away from the massive crater, putting distance between themselves and the fight. Adachi casts one last worried glance over her shoulder as they flee the battlefield. Ryuji winds up, letting out a powerful roar as he prepares to throw his only projectile. He hurls the gasoline ball with all his might, yelling for the monster to take it. The beast looks on in confusion as the ball shatters against its shoulder. Ryuji grits his teeth, his plan to ignite the monster with its own fire now ruined. The monster retaliates with a powerful, sweeping blow from its massive arm. The attack connects, sending Ryuji flying through the air with a cry of pain. Huma sees an opening and leaps onto the monster's arm, his katana poised. He sprints up the creature's furry limb, a blur of motion against its massive form. He cries out in frustration as his blade fails to pierce the monster's stone-like hide. The powerful impact sends a painful shockwave up his arms, his attack useless. The king mole thrashes wildly, shaking the feral boy from its back. Huma realizes he is in grave danger as he is flung into the air. The monster twists its body, preparing for a devastating new attack. Huma watches in shock as the creature begins to curl in on itself. It transforms into a massive rolling ball of fur and fury, an unstoppable avalanche. Ryuji, having recovered a gasoline can, taunts the beast, asking how it likes this. He dares the gasoline-soaked monster to try using its fireball now. The rolling behemoth smashes through the corner of a skyscraper with terrifying force. Ryuji looks on in horror, shouting that the entire building is collapsing. The monster lies dazed amidst the rubble, momentarily stunned from the impact. Peeking from behind the debris, Ryuji sees the massive, unmoving form of his foe. He sees his chance, hoping he can douse the monster's face with more gasoline. The creature's massive paws twitch as it begins to stir from its stupor. It pushes itself up with a roar, shaking off the tons of concrete and steel. A massive shockwave erupts as the monster gets back to its feet. Ryuji can only gasp in disbelief at its impossibly fast recovery. He is thrown backward by the sheer force of the monster's revival. He coughs up blood, amazed and terrified at how quickly the beast recovered. The king mole slams its body against the building, trapping Ryuji completely. Huma, seeing his partner's predicament, sprints along the monster's back to help. He stands poised on its shoulder, ready for a precision strike at a weak point. Chance, he thinks, planning to drive his sword directly into the creature's ear. But the monster turns its head at the last second, its cunning foiling his plan. Huma is thrown off balance, his desperate, brilliant gambit thwarted. The monster's single glowing eye glares with a chilling, malevolent intelligence. It unleashes a deafening, high-pitched roar directly into Huma's face. The sonic blast sends the feral boy hurtling backward through the air. He groans in pain, his body battered by the sheer force of the scream. The monster's massive paw swings around to swat him from the sky like an insect. The claws connect in a brutal, decisive, and overwhelming blow. Huma spits blood, his body broken by the impossible strength of the beast. His limp form crashes to the ground, lost amidst the urban wreckage. Ryuji is now alone, trapped in a dead-end alley of rubble and despair. His face is a mask of horror. He knows this is bad, that he's going to die. The king mole looms over him, raising its fist for the final, crushing blow. The fist smashes down, knocking Ryuji's last hope, his return core, from his grasp. His hand is empty, his only means of escape now lost to the chaos. The small cylindrical device, his ticket home, lies useless on the ground. It skitters across the pavement as the monster prepares to strike again. The shockwave from another blow sends him flying, further from safety. His face is a bloody mess, his consciousness fading from the brutal assault. The king mole smashes through the wall, trapping him completely. A city bus is sent flying as the monster continues its destructive rampage. The beast lets out a final, triumphant roar, its victory seemingly assured. Ryuji stands alone at the center of the crater, exposed and vulnerable. He realizes he's in a desperate situation, having used a healing item while being devoured. With horror, he understands he has just used his only stock of Kisnal Y. He wonders if he should try for his return core, but worries if the others are safe yet. The king mole pauses, confused by the boy's stillness, assuming he has already given up. But a fire ignites in Ryuji's eyes. If that's what the monster thinks, he remembers Adachi's voice, her desperate plea for him not to die. He remembers Rin's face, her tearful wish for him to survive so they could meet again. A grim, bloody, and utterly determined smile spreads across his face. A single thought hangs in the darkness. Even so, he stands alone on a rooftop, facing the colossal beast, ready for one last stand. He clutches his shoulder, offering a final quiet apology to his friends for what he must do. A diagram explains his trump card, the Summon Core Alpha, a one-time use item. A brilliant flash of light signals the activation of his final, desperate, and selfless plan. With his last resort, Ryuji summons 500 liters of gasoline above the monster. The massive orb bursts, drenching the colossal king mole in a torrent of fuel. The beast roars in confusion, shaking its massive gasoline-soaked head in fury. Having spent his resources, Ryuji knows there is no turning back now. He strikes a match, vowing to defeat the beast and revive his friend Rei. Screaming that this is reckless, he throws the tiny flame toward the monster. The gasoline ignites in a roaring inferno, engulfing the king mole's head. Ryuji roars that no normal creature could possibly survive such a powerful blast. The burning titan smashes its head into the shattered asphalt with immense force. It begins to smother the flames, using the dirt and rubble as an extinguisher. Ryuji stares in utter disbelief, his desperate gambit failing before his eyes. The beast burrows deep into the earth, disappearing from sight in a cloud of dust. He realizes the monster is using its own territory to gain the upper hand. Far away, the rest of the Blue Fox team flees down a ruined street. The thugs scream in terror, declaring they are done with this deadly job. Adachi observes that these men have been lucky to survive this long without danger. Suddenly, Meida's face contorts as he senses an approaching tremor from below. He opens his mouth to shout a desperate warning to the others to stop. The king mole bursts from the asphalt, blocking their path of escape. Adachi and Koharu stare up in horror at the sudden, terrifying appearance. A heavy, earth-shattering sound echoes as the monster lands before them. A sickening crunching sound fills the air as its massive paw descends. Adachi stares in blank shock, her face splattered with blood and gore. The colossal beast now looms over the remaining survivors, its shadow a promise of death. Her eyes are wide with terror as she looks up at the towering monster. She looks down, her face pale and sweat-drenched, the reality crashing down. Koharu is frozen, her wide eyes reflecting the sheer horror of the scene. A sudden guttural sound signals the monster preparing its next deadly attack. Framed by a gory splash, Adachi is paralyzed by the brutal, instant deaths. The ground is a horrific mess of blood and viscera where the thugs stood. Maida confirms in a choked whisper that the 3 thugs have been killed. The monster raises its massive clawed paw, preparing to strike the survivors. It lunges forward with surprising speed, its claws aimed directly at Adachi. A massive claw tears through Maeda's back as he shoves Adachi aside. Adachi looks back in horror, realizing Maeda has sacrificed himself for her. Maeda grits his teeth in agony, believing this to be his final moment. He is thrown to the ground, his back a bloody ruin from the attack. Adachi's face twists in a mask of grief and terror for her fallen comrade. She stands frozen, looking down at the grievously wounded Maeda at her feet. Overcome with horror, Adachi lets out a piercing, desperate scream of anguish. From a distant rooftop, Ryuji watches his friends being slaughtered, his heart sinking. He realizes the monster's vision is poor, relying on other, now damaged senses. The gasoline and burns have completely destroyed its crucial sense of smell. Huma's attack and the fire have left its hearing severely compromised as well. It has become a mindless puppet, attacking any loud sound it can perceive. The enraged, wounded beast looms over the screaming Adachi, ready to strike. Adachi and Koharu look up, certain that this is their final moment. Ryuji lets out a desperate roar from the rooftop, demanding the monster stop. He declares that he is its opponent as a strange power awakens. A swirling vortex of pure energy begins to coalesce in his outstretched hand. His eyes shines with a fierce, unwavering light, his resolve now absolute. He roars once more, his entire being focused on drawing the monster's wrath. The scene shifts to the sterile, futuristic hub surrounding the Oyona gate. Takamaru begins to explain his hypothesis about the true nature of Oyona. He explains that upon entering, a copy of one's body is created from Neomage. The real body is stored while consciousness is transferred to this Neomage copy. He reveals that everything in Oyona, from monsters to buildings, is Neomage. He concludes that even their very own bodies in this world are Neomage. The scene shifts to the green snakes walking along a tranquil, sunlit beach. Takamaru explains the awakening, where familiar tools gain special powers in Oyona. He theorizes it occurs when the link between consciousness and body reaches 100%. He believes this perfect sync is achieved through constant, life-or-death combat. He adds that one must survive long enough, which he finds extremely evil. He notes that Huma's awakening, by contrast, was unusually fast. Chacha dismisses the topic, finding this line of conversation to be a pain. Takamaru states that the trigger for Ryuji's awakening was not the bat. His subordinates are confused, asking what the trigger could be if not the bat. With a knowing smile, Takamaru reveals the true trigger was baseball itself. He explains Ryuji's decade-long history has ingrained the sport into his very being. He repeats his favorite phrase, finding the entire phenomenon to be extremely evil. He muses that if his prediction is correct, then Ryuji's potential is immense. Once he has awakened, the conditions for his power become clear. All of his baseball movements have become the conditions for his incredible power. He swings his bat, unleashing a powerful beam of pure, destructive energy. The energy blast strikes the king mole directly in its monstrous face. The monster's massive head snaps back from the sheer force of the impact. It stumbles backward, stunned and wounded by the sudden, overwhelming attack. An explosion of raw energy engulfs its head, forcing out an agonized roar. His teammates stare in disbelief, wondering if it was a beam or a new enemy. Adachi watches, her face a mask of shock and awe at Ryuji's new power. Ryuji sprints across the rooftops, his movements now impossibly fluid and fast. He leaps across a massive gap between buildings with superhuman grace and agility. He soars through the air, a lone warrior against the backdrop of destruction. He angles his body downward, preparing to bring his full power down upon the beast. Adachi screams his name, her voice a mixture of terror and desperate hope. She can only utter a single sound of disbelief at the impossible sight. Maida recognizes the unique, high-pitched hum of Ryuji's energy-infused bat. He descends like a meteor, his glowing bat aimed at the monster's head. The impact creates a massive explosion of light, rocking the entire street. The king mole stumbles, roaring in pain from the devastating overhead blow. Ryuji lets out a ferocious battle cry as he pushes back against the beast. The enraged monster retaliates with a furious swipe of its massive claws. Ryuji dodges the attack, landing deftly on the creature's outstretched arm. Maida screams at him to get down, fearing the monster will collapse on him. Adachi screams his name, wondering how he can possibly land from that height. Koharu frets that the fall will cripple him, even if he survives. Ryuji grits his teeth, ignoring their pleas, his focus entirely on the fight. The monster smashes its claws into the rooftop where Ryuji was just moments before. On the monster's back, Huma stands defiantly, his katana recovered and ready. He grips his sword, the lone warrior ready to rejoin his partner in battle. Amidst the urban ruins, Ryuji and Huma stand ready, weapons poised for battle. The colossal king mole lets out a deafening, soul-shattering roar. Ryuji plants his foot firmly, crushing rubble as he prepares to stand his ground. The monster's massive, furred head looms over Ryuji, a god of destruction. Its single, terrifying eye snaps wide open, its pupil a black abyss. The beast rises to its full, impossible height, dwarfing the skyscrapers around it. Maida and Koharu watch in horror, realizing the monster's eye has opened. Huma takes a determined step forward, unafraid of the impossible odds. The two warriors face each other, Huma's gleaming katana held between them. Ryuji's hand flashes out, catching the blade in a silent pact of trust. Huma flashes a feral grin, acknowledging their shared purpose. Ryuji's face is a mask of grim, unshakable determination. With his eyes narrowed, Huma prepares for the final, desperate charge. Together, the two unlikely allies turn to face their colossal foe. The king mole brings its massive, clawed paw down to obliterate them. They leap apart in perfect sync, dodging the ground-shattering impact. Ryuji's eyes widen in concentration, tracking the monster's every move. They become a whirlwind of motion, running up the creature's massive arms. In a deadly dance, they coordinate their assault against the titan. Upon defeat, the monster's body erupts in a blinding flash of pure light. They land together, victorious, as the beast dissolves into shimmering particles. Their team cheers, amazed that the Sarumagura has become Numage. Adachi can only whisper in awe, finding their victory truly incredible. Ryuji pants heavily, the immense strain of the battle finally catching up. Huma offers a weary but triumphant smile, the fight finally over. The two warriors share a fist bump, sealing their hard-won victory. Their teammates rush forward, their faces alight with relief and awe. Maeda shouts that they are both unbelievably strong as Rin approaches. Rin tearfully thanks Ryuji, who admits he was just lost in the moment. He confesses that he has used up all the Neomage for his return trip. His strength finally gives out, and he begins to sway on his feet. He collapses to the ground, unconscious, as his team looks on in shock. Adachi and Rin scream his name, calling out for their fallen leader. His consciousness slips away, fading into darkness. The world returns as a blur of white light. His eyes flutter open, taking in the unfamiliar ceiling above. He jolts awake with a gasp, sitting up in a strange bed. He is startled to find Huma's face just inches from his own. He sees the whole team gathered around, Maeda asking if he is finally awake. Huma cheerfully offers the startled Ryuji a slice of apple. Still dazed, Ryuji asks where he is. Maeda explains they are in the infirmary of the Tetsuzu building. Ryuji realizes the trouble he must have caused them. A sudden panicked memory flashes through his mind. He frantically asks about the giant monster in Rin. Adachi explains that he and Huma collapsed right after the battle. She taught Rin how to return home using the monster's Neomage. Ryuji sinks back into his pillow, relieved that everyone is safe. Maeda advises him to rest, warning him not to push his luck. Adachi tearfully begs him not to go alone, promising they will follow. Koharu agrees, shouting that it's too dangerous for their leader. Ryuji can only manage a weak, exhausted laugh. Huma admits that going with them might be more fun than going solo. He leans in close, a wild grin on his face, asking when they go next. 1 year passes. A large, ivy-covered baseball stadium stands tall. The stands are packed with a massive, cheering crowd. The spectators are completely engrossed in the game unfolding below. The Blue Fox team sits together, Yuma complaining about the summer heat. Adachi and Huma both admit they don't understand the rules of baseball. Two women behind them gossip about how strange that is for young people. Maeda gallantly offers to explain the rules to Adachi. She smacks him when he teasingly calls her Ryuji's girlfriend. In the dugout, Ryuji sits alone, breathing deeply to calm his nerves. A familiar voice asks if he is feeling nervous again. Ryuji starts to make an excuse, his face tense with pressure. Rei reminds him that this is nothing compared to their life or death battles. He tells Ryuji to relax and have fun, as they've already done the hard work. Rei takes his hand and Ryuji agrees, his resolve hardening. The team cheers as the announcer calls Momokawa High onto the field. His sister Eri points him out to their mother, who weeps with joy. Ryuji and Rei walk toward the sunlit field, arms clasped, their dream reclaimed.